MAME phase.
Good evening and welcome to another one of these Just June streams. In this one I'm going to look at games in MAME that are badly emulated. Things where we either got stuck with the emulation or there's a bad ROM dump which means we can't progress, or maybe sometimes things have regressed, maybe we just don't know the way forward at all. Basically things that don't work. Maybe they're too advanced, maybe they run too slowly. There's many reasons for games to be badly emulated in MAME, and I've just picked out a selection of them, both home and arcade games, and I'll be looking at them. I've not got everything I want on this list because I've been preparing this for a while and I've just sort of run out of time. Just want to get this out there and get this done, get this sorted. But I think I've got a good list anyway. So I'm going to be starting with Taito's WGP, which is a bike racing game, as you can see from the preview images while it's been running before the stream started. But anyway, welcome to. First of all, I welcome everybody in the chat. So first in we had Bob, and then we had Thomas, Christian, more from Bob. Stephen was here quite early too. David, Extreme Rec 2000 with the yo as a welcome. So yo to you too. We've got Melissa Gowd as well, and we've got Cow. Cow is often here, and there will be a game featuring Cow today. And we've got Costado and Aussie Guy and Ramses. So I think that's everybody who's already here. So welcome to you all, and thank you for joining early. It's always good to have a good crowd for when I'm starting. So right, what I'm going to do is what I usually do and turn the volume back up. And I'm going to change my view. And I'm going to full screen this one. So WGP. This one has been in MAME for a long time. And I think before MAME, it was probably in RAIN in an equally non-working state. Yeah, hopefully somebody will have an idea of how to fix them. Now this one is, I want to say, unique Taito hardware. It kind of mixes a few things in from some other games in terms of the hardware, but it's got a few chips that I think are only on this board, and one of them is kind of obvious what it's meant to do, but we don't know how to implement it. And once I start the game, I'll explain. Now, on the surface, this looks like a nice, simple racing game. You're racing along and you move across the track, and it generally doesn't actually look that impressive. It's kind of plain. But that's because one of the major features here is missing. If you've ever played Power Drift, Sega's Power Drift, the screen rotates when you turn. And this game is meant to be doing the same thing. The whole background is meant to rotate on corners. And it's not clear how that works, and the sprites are too. So the sprites seem to maybe have some extra parameters that are being ignored in the emulation that might be to do with the rotation. The background might be a global rotation, it might be a frame buffer rotation on the whole thing. We're not sure. And the driver's not really been looked at for years. If you look at the state of the driver in MAME, it's not great. I mean, it's hacking up digital controls to replace analog controls, which is completely unnecessary. It looks almost like it's a straight port of a much older driver from RAIN or something like that. And I don't think it's really been touched since, and if anything, it's probably regressed slightly because I don't remember the HUD always being black like it is now. So I think not only is it badly emulated due to the missing features, but the driver is slowly regressing due to lack of attention and poor code quality as well. The sequel, which runs on the same hardware, has some protection of some sort and runs just as badly. You can see the game is kind of playable, you can race around the track, but it's wholly unimpressive without the rotation effects. Looks like a PS1 game. I mean, there's no 3D here, Extreme Rec. This is an entirely 2D piece of hardware. But yeah, I can see this kind of thing being on a PlayStation. I mean, the PlayStation could approximate the road with some polygons and sprite scaling with polygons. But I think the proper version of this with the full rotation, the PlayStation might actually struggle to pull off. But with it running in this state, it's not that great. You can't really tell what you're colliding with as well because the sprite positioning is off. You can see all these things over the middle of the road, and that's because they're meant to be offset slightly and rotating themselves. And there are real hardware videos of some parts of this game online. If you look them up, you can tell this is actually one of the more impressive Taito racing games. But The state in MAME is kind of sorry. Unfortunately, I look at the driver every now and again, and beyond maybe be able to do some basic cleanups, removing the digital control hacks, which are pointless because there's a joystick set anyway. If you want to play it without analog controls, just run the joystick set. But beyond that, I don't know what to do with it. I tried to make sense of the parameters myself. I couldn't. Even if I knew how to use them, I'm not sure how to go about implementing them. Yeah, on the real hardware, the effects looks really cool. As I say, it's like Power Drift, and Power Drift is one of my favourites because it's got that whole frame buffer rotation effect. I think the last time anybody touched this driver properly was probably about 15 years ago, Ramses. That's the problem. It's been updated to work with changes in MAME, and at some point probably that's why the text layer is broken, because the palette base probably hasn't been updated properly. But based on the general comments and style of comments and code quality, I don't think this has been looked at in a good 15 years in terms of actually improving it. I mean, there were some impressive racing games on the Amiga. Yeah, Extreme Wreck. I mean, you've got is it Vroom? There's a 3D rendered one. And there's like virtual karting or something like that on some, if you've got an expanded Amiga, although I was never impressed by that one. That was one of the later titles, when the Amiga was really trying to compete with the PC. So let's just have a look at anything else in the chat. Still more playable in that state than Virtual Mario. Bubsy 3D. Yeah, it's playable, but not very playable. And hey Peter Hulshoff, welcome as well. I didn't see you earlier, but welcome. Hope you're doing well. Obviously, did I ask everybody else if they're doing well? If I didn't, I hope you were doing well, because I do sometimes forget to ask, and that's always quite embarrassing, because I enjoy the community here. Anyway, yeah, I think I don't think there's anything I need to reply to. Even more playable than Outrun 2 in MAME. Yeah, I won't be showing Outrun 2, Cal, because while the demo mode does run, it takes about an hour to boot, and I don't think you want to be waiting here while I spend an hour booting Outrun 2, because it runs at about 1% speed, and there are no inputs, so even if I let it boot, you can't play it, and it eventually hangs after about 20 minutes of emulation time, which is about 3 hours of my time. Oh, hey Mo as well. I see Mo is here. Welcome, Mo. Yeah, there is a clip on YouTube of a cab running this game, and it is quite impressive. So, yeah, Costado's posted the YouTube, the characters you post at the end of the YouTube URL. Anybody who wishes to look at that video, I might post some of these videos in the comments after the stream. And hey, the Ogre is here too. Welcome, the Ogre. Always good to see you as well. In fact, we've got quite a full house already. 34 viewers at the moment, and we're still on the first game of the stream, which is the badly emulated WGP World Grand Prix from Taito. So, yeah, I'll race a little bit more on this, and then we'll have a look at the sequel, because the sequel is basically the same thing. And it works in about the same way from what I remember, but we'll have a look at it anyway after this. So yeah, this is one I really look forward to seeing improved one day. I don't know who's going to improve it. I mean, I don't think it's going to be me, because I've looked at it and don't really understand it, but it's one I keep my eye out for anybody making improvements to, and hope one day it becomes a more playable game. And it's one that if I ever saw a cab in the wild, I'd probably give it a try, but I think that's becoming increasingly unlikely. I mean, given there's only like one YouTube video of it, I don't think it's a common game. At least not anymore. Maybe it used to be. I believe you can link up the cabs for multiple players as well, so maybe there are even some twin cabs out there somewhere, but I don't think there are any in the UK. But yeah, considering I don't like a lot of the later Taito racing games, this one has something about it. I just wish it worked better. Now, I believe one of the comments in the source says it's not even clear how the game speed in this is controlled, so it might be running too fast here. It doesn't seem to wait for any interrupts, so it just runs as fast as the 68K can run it, which is a bit unusual. So maybe it's trying to sync its timing to something else, but that's one of the other issues why there's quite a bit of sprite flicker in places. It's because sometimes you're getting half lists drawn. It's not too bad sprite flicker compared to some games, but you do notice it in places. But, anyway, it also seems a little easy considering how often I crash, and apparently I'm still in first place, but again, this might be an emulation flaw of some kind. It does sound a lot better than the Galaga conversion. You mean the Galaxian conversion of driving forced of it? Galaga would sound a lot better, but Galaxian is your crude sound hardware. It's syncing its time to how fast the emulated computer is, not how fast my computer is. If I wanted to run as fast as possible, I can go like this and then it's at super speed. This is how fast my computer runs it, unthrottled, but we don't do that. It's unplayable. Anyway, yeah, I said I'd have a quick look at the sequel, which is in just as bad state, so let's do that briefly. So yeah, same driver. Yeah, all the sprites and tracks are supposed to rotate. And no, I can't just tilt my screen, no Johto, because the actual motorbike parts are not meant to rotate. Something about the rain effects not rotating, I don't know. But yeah, Taito decided to make a semi-sequel that reuses most of the same assets. But for some reason, maybe it's got more courses. But it's more or less the same game. But yeah, I mean, on PCs, yeah, it's more common to have games that just ran as fast as the machine could run them. Now this one seems to have, behind the bike view as well, I've noticed. I don't know if that's optional or if this version is always like that. So, it's also showing warnings. It's also not moving the time limit. So, yeah, I think actually this version runs worse than the main game. So there you go. WGP2 runs worse. It might be the protection. I mean, it does have a protection chip on it. I guess to stop people converting WGP to WGP2 without Taito's authorization. But yeah, the time's not even moving on this version. So yeah. And I don't seem to be able to change gears. In fact, yeah, this version is a mess. I'm guessing it's a debug display of some kind, or it's a motion cabinet that's telling me it's tilting too far, or I don't know. I think it might be running in some kind of debug mode. Maybe that text shouldn't even be displayed. I mean, this is the badly emulated game stream, so anything is possible. Overdrive. Interesting you should mention Overdrive, Cow, because we will be looking at Overdrive shortly. In fact, maybe we'll be looking at Overdrive next. Because there is good reason to look at Overdrive. Tilting hell. Yeah, this one's even more of a mess than the first one. Apparently I ran out of time, even though the time wasn't updating. I really don't know. Right, so yeah, WGP2 is more of a mess than the other. So yeah, people have been mentioning Overdrive, so right, Overdrive in MAME that you can download looks like this. It is a mess. I mean, there's no road, the time's running really slowly. I can insert some coins. Now this is one of the strangest Konami games in terms of programming. It's a vertical racer, but some of the assets are actually horizontal in the ROM. and it uses the rotation to rotate them to a vertical screen. It's almost as if the game was developed initially for a horizontal screen and then became a vertical game later. I'm not sure. As you can see, this is quite a mess. And once you start the game, there's no timer. The timer stops working, so the HUD layer's gone. Yeah, it's kind of broken, isn't it? And it's always been broken in MAME in some way. It's never been playable. Which is a shame, because while it feels like one of those games that's about to fall apart at any given moment anyway, and while the coding is so sloppy in the game, you're amazed it works. And yes, there are some cows there. I just went straight through them. There we go. I apologise, cow, but I cannot dodge teleporting cows. But yeah, see, the game is just broken. You can sort of navigate your way around, but the checkpoints aren't even working. Nothing's working. I don't think there's a timer. I think you just play it and, you know, I can see. Let's stop. Let's see. Does it run out of time? Let's just fast forward it. So I don't think the time's even running anymore. This is magnificently broken, isn't it? So there's no timer. Yeah, this is just now. It's getting even worse. It's the colours have gone wrong, and I should probably put a seizure warning on this one now because the flicker is so bad. But hey, so yeah, Overdrive is kind of broken. Well, it's not meant to be that bad, Extreme Wreck. And in fact, KO was kind enough to send me a version of MAME from a few years back when Olivia was working on this in a private branch that has not yet been merged because he's working on his own. But this is how, in a development branch, not my development branch, Overdrive runs. Now, the frame rate is still bad, but I think that's just the game. Say, it feels like a very badly programmed piece of software in the first place. But now, we can coin this up. No music. So now, we can try and play it. And you see, in this build, which is quite a few years old and was never a public build, you had to get it from the Konami branch and compile it yourself. This version, the game is kind of playable, and you can skid around the corners. There are still glitches. It's still quite badly emulated in place. I mean, you can see at the bottom of the screen there's a black border. You're going too near the edge, and you get bits of road wrapping around that shouldn't wrap around. But overall, in this build, we have a playable game. So, part of what I want to do with this stream is maybe give people some hope for the future, show them games that don't work that might work at some time in the future, and this I feel is one of them. There's still some small glitches, yeah, but you can actually play this game. I don't know if the time is all correct, because the timer seems quite generous considering how badly I usually drive. So there might be still some issues, because like I said, the programming on this game is kind of awful, and everything is just almost, it feels like it works by chance. It relies on the timing of everything. There's the cows, you see. I'm not going to crash into the cows this time because they're not running all over the road. Good cows, well-behaved cows. Cows that are easy to avoid. Now, this does, on some later stages, still fall apart quite badly because it ends up using maths unit. Oh, I'm running out of time after saying the time is generous. Never mind. I can give it another credit. Yeah, so let's give it another credit and try again. Because obviously those crashes where I put my face through the windscreen can't have done me any good. So let's see if I can get a bit further this time. But yeah, it's a thrilling game. I'd say that much about it. There's lots going on. And I think where it falls apart on a technical level, and I've seen original hardware videos of this game, and it can be a mess on original hardware. There's some stage transitions that just look really glitchy, for example, and the frame rate's not much better from what I could see. But I think Konami realised it was a fun game, so, you know, while it might have failed many technical tests, they probably decided, yeah, this is too much fun to not release. And it does seem like an enjoyable game. And if I, again, this one, if I saw a cabinet of it, I'd probably play it. And there aren't many vertical racing games. That is to say, that's one of the odd things with it. It's a racing game on a vertical screen. And it works surprisingly well for that. You wouldn't maybe naturally think racing vertical screen, but, you know, obviously older games like Turbo, but this view, vertical, not so common. Yeah, you know, I'm having fun with this. And you do have a bit of drift around the corners. Oh, okay. Thank you, Thomas, for subscribing there. Welcome. If you're in the chat, feel free to say hello if you have not already. And you've got your classic scenes here, you know, your waterfalls at the side of the road. You see this in so many games. So it's not necessarily the most original scenes, but the gameplay feels fresh and original. It doesn't handle quite like any other game I've played. There's still some glitches here and there. Uh-oh. That's quite a bad crash. Yeah, so it's about the same frame rate. If the timers are running at different speed, I'm not sure. I've not compared. But again, this is from a development build. At the moment, nobody really knows when the Konami development build is going to be merged into the main tree, because it does, I think, break as many things as it fixes. And Olivia's been working on it for many, many years now. But yeah, I just wanted to show this in a version where it's not as broken, where you can actually play it. And say thanks to Kale for sending the build along after compiling it, because I didn't have a compiler of it myself to try. But you can see, one day it will run at least this well in MAME, but when, I don't know. Oh, we've got another. Hey Peter, thank you for subscribing, and I really should pause the game when I read the screenshot. But maybe crashes make it more fun. Hurry up, hurry up. You know, I did want to show things that are somewhat enjoyable, mixed in with the complete brokenness of the stream. We've got a nice little overhead road there too. Are there any non-racing games that are going to be showcased here? Oh yes, there are plenty of non-racing games that are going to be shown for different reasons. I mean, racing games are often tricky to emulate, so there are quite a few racing games in the list today, because they often push the hardware. But yeah, I've got some that aren't racing games, some that, you know, you might not even consider to be badly emulated, where it's just something like speech missing or something like that, but where it's significant enough for me to maybe talk about. Bit of a rain effect going on here as well. In fact, the next game I'm going to look at will probably be a tile matching game. A Korean one. With some not quite adult images. Suggestive, but not graphic. Oh dear. I mean, I don't think we're going to get much further on Overdrive in my driving. So, once the time runs out here, we'll probably move on to that. Now, I don't know how long this stream's going to be, because a lot of these broken games, I'm not going to get much out of them in terms of playing them, because they're broken. But, Korean Tile Match. You see, this version isn't in mature.ini. Hey Santeri, thank you for joining. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well. It should be a wall on the right, should the System 11. You see, I've not compared it to the original videos. Hey, look, the cows are even in the map. So, Yeah, there is still going to be emulation faults, so this is just a preview of the work in progress. And it's a tricky one to get right, but it shows something has been done, at least, you know, in the private branches. I say private, they might be public. You might be able to find the Konami branch and find it yourself. But obviously it does work a lot better here, even though it's still not quite. I mean, you can see the scrolling here on this screen's wrong. It's jumping around. It's showing the wrong part of this tile map. But Konami hardware's tricky. Can we get a title screen, Alice? The track mode ones. Let's speed up for that. All these little demos. You see the different parts of the levels. There you go, you see. And there we go, the title screen. Which apparently is still lacking the logo, because again, the emulation's not perfect. Oh, no, there we go, Overdrive. Maybe that's correct. I don't know. It's it's a little bit of a rough game. A PS1 port of Overdrive. It's a lot more fun than Ranmobile Costado. And hey, Mr. Midas 2K, I hope you're doing well too. Let me just scroll. And hey, Peter, I hope you're doing well as well. And Iron Fist Clown, or plenty of people here today. And it says, I hope everybody is well and enjoying their evening. And looking forward to seeing some badly emulated games. So far, we have looked at Taito's WGP and its sequel, and Konami's Overdrive. Now, this one does contain some almost adult imagery, but I believe it is safe. So let's change back to the correct folder. Just a warning if you're especially sensitive. Now, this is the X-Files. It's a dgPIX game. Now, the key thing with these dgPIX games is this Samsung KS0164 audio processor, which is the sound CPU these use. Now, the issue with this is there is no documentation on the sound CPU. So, the entire instruction set had to be reverse engineered. And you can kind of hear, I'm going to turn it up slightly. You can kind of hear there is some sound in the game. There is some music. It's repeating a lot of sounds and it's incorrect. But it is making sounds. Just not very pleasant sounds. So yeah, there's, you know, reversing an entire instruction set for a CPU that you don't know anything about is kind of difficult. So while this might not seem impressive, the fact it's making any sounds and running the code at all is very impressive. And buried in there somewhere there might be some, I think if you coin it up at the right time, you do get something that resembles more music. So if you do it quickly. There you go, you see that there's some almost music in the background. Yes, there's also a pick on these, which I think might be related to why for every tile match I seem to get a score of 0 extra time. I don't know. I feel like I should be getting more than 0 extra time for each match, and that maybe is a protection thing, I don't know. But yeah, the protection on these seems to patch some code in RAM or something like that. So it's kind of difficult to know what they do, what it does. But yeah, I'm quite suspicious of the fact I don't really get any extra time because it makes the game practically impossible. I mean, you see time over already. Yeah, all you hear is the UFO, the Space Invaders UFO, the ogre. Yeah, there's a slight bit of music going on, but again, the entire instruction set for this had to be reverse engineered from nothing. Just studying the code, the raw code, the raw binary, the raw hex values, and going, well, this looks like it should be this opcode, this looks like it should be this opcode, and guessing it. The entire thing is guessed. So yes, we can zoom in on the non-adult content. So yeah, this set is censored, so I think YouTube will be okay with it. Anyway. And I think as time progresses, the sound channels just fill up, and you just see the music's gone now. You're just getting more of this repeating UFO sound. So I think it's not freeing the sound channels properly at the moment or something like that. So yeah, that's one game that uses it. Now, one we did look at on another stream, which surprised me because the music works a bit better in it, is King of Dynast Gears. Now this is a bootleg rewrite of Dynagears, and this uses the same sound system. If I coin this up, you can hear it's got a proper coin sound. I'm going to turn the volume up a bit on this one. You see, you can hear a coin sound. And you can hear a select sound. Again, you've got something that kind of resembles music. Hey, Negative One. I do have one plug and play penciled in for this one, potentially. I was going to look at one of the Carl Edwards Racing plug and plays, because it's on Elan Harbour and still needs some work. But it is kind of playable. And also, welcome, hope you're doing well. And hey, Mitchell as well, hope you're doing well too. Good to see you again, another one of the regulars. Yeah, I've turned this down a bit. So, as bad as these sound, it is actually amazing they have any sound whatsoever. Yeah, if you want to play this game, actually just play the proper version, which is Dynagears. This is just a dodgy Korean rewrite of Dynagears on completely different hardware. Dynagears itself is a fantastic game, whereas this King of Dynast Gears is a weird knockoff on bootleg Hyperstone based hardware with a frame buffer instead of proper video hardware. Yeah, it's ambient synth music. Now the actual chip is basically a black box MIDI player, which is kind of how the one of the ways in which the code was reverse engineered, because you know the people reverse engineering the code and trying to work out the instruction set knew that the purpose of the CPU was to play back basic MIDI files. So by knowing what the MIDI format was and studying, you know, looking at what the code could be, how it could read back MIDI data, process it and things like that, it's one of the ways in which some of the opcodes were guessed until, you know, they came up with something that runs and doesn't just crash and kind of makes some sounds. I mean, it's far beyond my ability to, you know, reverse engineer an instruction set from nothing, but that is exactly what has been done with the sound CPU here. And I'm going to guess to improve it might require more examples, more games that use it. There aren't that many, don't. And a lot of them do use exactly the same code, just with different data. So it's going to be a long road to see improvements to the sound emulation. But the fact it runs at all is a big step. I mean, this is running the CPU code. And, you know, I personally thought that would never happen, because when something is completely undocumented, where do you start? I mean, you've just got a bunch of, you know, hex values in a file. You can maybe look at something, think, oh, that looks like the start a piece of code, that might be a jump to it, build some structure, but guessing an entire instruction set is, you know, a really complex thing. And the sound here is nothing like the Ensoniq chip on SSV, William. This is a completely different thing. This is basically a black box MIDI playback thing, whereas the Ensoniq is, you know, is completely its own thing. Yeah, this is very lo-fi music, David. But no, this wasn't an Amiga game. There aren't many arcade games that are based on Amiga games. I might look at one or two later. There are one or two that definitely fit the badly emulated guideline I've got for this stream, because the MAME's Amiga emulation is kind of bad, and there are some arcade games that use Amiga hardware that run kind of bad, like far too fast and with bad sound. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that's the sound chip, which I made a mess of pronouncing the name of, but let's just reload that briefly. And so the KS0164 is the sound CPU there. It's a Samsung thing. It's entirely custom, and yeah, it's quite the feat to get it that far. But you know, you still have to say it's badly emulated, really, don't you? Pardon me. Take revenge on my enemy, mean kill me. It might do. The ogre might do. It sounds like something you would hear in the game. I don't think we've ever found any of the Rainbow Arts arcade games. I don't know if they ever made it out of the actual development studio. But yeah, the original Dyna Gear is a lot of fun. Anyway. Yeah, System 11. If you want to check your PCB and see if you actually get proper bonus times on the PCB, that would be interesting, because I suspect it's an emulation glitch. It seems to be basically impossible to play like that. So yeah, that one's a mess. Right. Okay. Let's go back to a puzzle game. This is IGS's Puzzle Star on PGM hardware. Now, the funny thing with this one is, it's one of the games that ended up on some of the bootleg units. I think some of the earlier Pandora's Box and Blue Elf, is it, or Happy Fish units, put this on there, but it doesn't work. The Chinese bootleggers seem to think they knew better than us, and because it seems to play, they just put it on there as a working game. But you can tell from even just the demo mode, there are issues. I mean, those characters jumping to the right there, that's not meant to happen. They're meant to be centered. So you can already see there are protection issues here. And while for quite a few of the PGM games, we managed to extract the internal ARM ROM for the protection chip by finding exploits, buffer overruns and things like that, unchecked buffers, and dump out the internal code. For this one, no exploits have been found, so we haven't managed to dump out the internal code. So it's relying on a simulation of the protection chip, and that simulation isn't accurate. You're watching on a Samsung Galaxy S9. I don't think that one would have the sound chip that King of Dynasties and X-Files used. Oh yeah, and obviously with X-Files, that was obviously not a licensed game. It just happened to have Mulder and Scully and an X-Files title screen, because why not? Anyway, this one, it's like the Metro game, Dharma something, and I believe Metro licensed the concept to IGS for this game. You basically have to match tiles down the bottom by pushing them off the edge. So we can be a whole bunch of characters. Shall I be the mermaid or the lion? I'll be the mermaid. Visually, yeah, it's got that kind of style like Puzzle Fighter 2, hasn't it, David? But unfortunately, this one is broken, as we will find out. There's also the whole, astrology theme going on here. But you push them together, and you make your matches. And it seems to work just fine. Which I guess is why, the Chinese bootleggers decided it worked fine. Samsung make many things. The monitor I'm playing on is a Samsung.
Ready? Go!
Samsung even used to make the odd Mega Drive game for their clone Mega Drive back in the day. I did look at it at one of the streams, in fact. Got a 5 combo. And there we go. I believe that is a bull, is it? Oil. Well, I don't have a Samsung oil tanker, Custado. And hey, John F. Donnelly, welcome. I hope you're doing well. I don't believe I've said hi to you. And hey, Andy, welcome to you as well. Again, I hope you are doing well. It's always good to see you. I believe from memory you are the person who shares my surname. Oh, now you've got to get 4. So now, so far it looks like the game works, which is the deceptive thing, really. Because for a while the game does basically work. And if you don't play it extensively, you're not going to know any better. I think you have to clear stage 1 for it to break, basically. 54. Apparently a lot of people want to see broken games then, Bob. So I hope you're doing well, Andy. I do try and remember things people have mentioned in the chat, but yeah, it's not always easy. So if I get people confused, I do apologise. I do it in real life. I'll start talking to a person about something they've told me, and then I find out it was somebody else entirely that told me that thing, and I'm talking to the wrong person. The ways in which we make fools out of ourselves. Let's get that out of the way. There is some requirement of not being terrible at this game if I want to crash it. Rest assured, I do want to crash it. Also, the sticky controls don't help. It does not have the best controls, this game, but I think that's just the game. It's a bit sticky. There we go. You know, I might end up looking at Final Lap later, Cow. Final Lap R.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I'll have a promotion. Does the game break yet? At some point the game does break, rest assured. It gives you impossible levels. But, you know, knowing my luck, I will fail to break the game on stream. But this is one of the reasons also people will come to us and say, oh, this game works fine, you should promote it, when it doesn't work fine. Because if you don't play it extensively, you're going to think, oh, it's a playable game, it's absolutely fine, why is it marked as not working? And that does happen, and it's what we get a lot of the time with people using older versions of MAME on things too. They'll play things and think, oh, they work fine in the older version, don't know what people are talking about. But that's because they've not actually done the thing that breaks them. How do I do this? Oh, so I can put the stars in the star. Okay. I get it. Okay, I get what you can do here. If you can do that, but then you can't do it. Let's get some extra time. But I've messed up now. I don't like this puzzle game. I'm bad at this puzzle game. You go back as remove a piece. Okay, that's not really what I want to do either. So I need to get that so it's the third. I need to make the star the third piece. So I'm meant to be demonstrating that the game is broken, failing in every way to do that. I can put 2 stars there. Okay, right. But they still pop back up. Anyway, believe it or not, this game is broken. And I will try to demonstrate this game being broken. But what's the secret to doing this level? Right. But then I've got this in the wrong order. And this would... By pure luck, I've done the level.
Extra space.
There were some games that are just broken in the original games. Yes, Extreme Wreck. There were some games that are just that buggy.
One combo. Two combo. Three combo. Four combo.
There we go. Now, I don't remember how long it takes to break this game, so anyway, I'm not going to play that anymore. But that game does break after a while, and you'll just have to take my word for it, because I think you have to get to round 2, and actually, are there cheats? If there are cheats, there are no cheats. So yeah, there are no cheats. I'd have to get to round 2. At the moment, that would take too long, I've realised, because I don't have, you know, all day to play to round 2 on the puzzle game. But it will break. I think it will. It gives you the pieces from one of the earlier levels. Like, it only gives you 3 pieces, and you've got to make combinations of 4 or something like that. It stops giving you the right pieces at some point, which makes it unplayable. Anyway. So, after boring people to death with that one, let's have a look at Panic Road, a Seibu game with the Taito license. Yeah, I might have to cheat find it, Bob. I remember cheat finding that game is a bit of a nightmare, though. I tried before. So this is one that a few years ago I thought I'd fixed the emulation of. How wrong I was. Now, it's a pinball game. Now, the game has hardware collisions, so all the graphics have like got a collision map associated with them, and the game reads what looked like a screen offset to work out if to collide with something. And you know what? I thought I'd fixed it. I played the game for a while, and I didn't crash it. And then Lord BB-8 the stream, one of his main roulette streams, and within, you know, a few minutes of playing the game, he broke it. Because if you hit certain parts of the playfield at certain angles, your ball just goes out of bounds. Now again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to reproduce that on the stream here, because one of the things with some of these broken games is they can be deceptively okay looking. I think you have to hit it there where the hole is actually. They can look okay, you can play them for a while and think, hey, this is fine, why is this mark just not working? And then you realise, and once you've broken it, you know, you realise it is broken. It's a broken game. And this is one of those. Yeah, there are lots of examples of games that are just broken by their programming. Beezer in MAME is one such game. There's a fatal flaw in the way I think the AI works, and then there's a bug fix revision that tries to fix it but actually makes the problem worse. There are definitely games where, you know, you realise the game is just broken through no fault of the emulation, just the game. And you know, there are famous examples on many of the computers too. I mean, as an Amstrad CPC user, Count Duckula 2 is one of the more famous examples where there were screens that were impossible because they ported it from the Spectrum but stopped you jumping off the top of the screen, which makes them, like, about the third screen impossible to pass. So yeah, you can see this game appears to work fine, but that's because I've not done the thing that breaks it yet. Yes, Aussie Guy, there are collision problems in this game, that's what I'm saying. That's why this one is in the list of broken games. Unfortunately, you know, I thought I had fixed the collisions, but I haven't. But I'm not especially good at breaking it. Oh, that was close. So sometimes you hit it there, it breaks. I think... Again, this is one where you might not see the breakage on stream, because that's cruel. A hole in the playfield that just kills you off. So, apparently the name entry screen is broken too. Oh no, it's working now. I just can't see my selector maybe? I don't know. Shakeable rest. It's how many times you're allowed to tilt the table before it gives you a tilt. So yeah, like most pinball games, tilting the table is one of the strategies you can use to control the ball. Oh yeah, if we're talking broken pinball games, the magnet system version of Time Scanner 2 is broken on original hardware, but that's because the magnet system version of Time Scanner is terrible. MAME is C++, Nancy's. Fairly modern C++. So it's using quite a few of the newer language features in places. But yeah, I'd say you might not see me crash this game because I'm not the best at crashing it. I played it for hours when I thought I'd fixed the emulation in the first place and didn't crash it. So it was just funny to see, you know, Lord BBH crash it within a few minutes. So if you find his old MAME roulette stream, I think it was one of the first ones. Maybe it was even the first MAME roulette stream, I don't know. But he did crash the game, and it's like, oh. But the issue is, with bugs like this that are quite hard to reproduce, you can think you fixed it. You can think you fixed it, spend forever testing it, and then somebody else will play it and go, no, you didn't fix it, it still breaks. And that is incredibly frustrating, but it's what happens. Yeah, you know, when I want it to break, it won't break. It's like Puzzle Star, you're right. But rest assured, both are broken games. You know, I've not. I know I will kill myself off on this level. I want a game over. There we go. Probably, I'll just hit F3 and try again. So let's see if I can break it this time. I think it is that there. I think it's those holes on the left you have to hit it towards, or maybe it's on the right, and it will break. But the physics in this game are horrible in general, and that's not the emulation. I did look at an original hardware video and go, oh yeah, that's bad. I'd say it was an emulation bug, R09, because it can trigger quite often. I'm just not doing a very good job of triggering it. It might be related to how it reads collision data if it's off the tile map, because it is at the very edge of the screen where you just go off the out of bounds. So maybe out of bounds reads on the tile maps are meant to return different values. That's a possibility, I guess. But, I don't know. As you can see, I am failing to crash it. No, it's a pinball game with really bad physics. It's just not a fun system, let me be correct. It's got good music, but yeah, there are far better pinball games. I'm going to play it for another couple of minutes, and if I still don't crash it, then you just have to take my word for it that it's broken. Because, again, this is what we're faced with doing emulation, is sometimes reproducing the bugs is difficult. So it's not even going near the holes where I know it's got to go near to crash it. There aren't too many good pinball games. That's why, you know, the ones that are good are always more impressive. So, yeah, I'm not going to be able to crash that, but if you crash it, the ball will go past the holes at the edge of the screen and sort of fall down the side and just start looping around. And the thing is, Bob, if you're good at playing the games, you're good at hitting the targets, which makes you better at breaking them. Anyway, let's look at some that are considered non-working by most people due to performance. Although there are other bugs in the driver as well that would make you think that too. And if there's anybody joined recently, I hope you're doing well. I see the viewing figures are jumping up still. So this is Crazy Taxi, a Naomi game. Now, most people would consider Naomi not working in MAME due to the frame rate. And the build of MAME I'm running here has a few extra little hacks in that I put to thread the rendering, but it's not really thread safe, so that it's not, you know, included. But it does actually mean that it runs at 100% speed with frame skip of 8. X68K emulation is much improved negative one over the last, year. Well, last like 3, 4, 5 months, in fact. So this will load. Well, you know, I want to show these because it's not actually unrealistic for MAME to be emulating these at full speed. This is MAME with a few very cheap hacks to make. I will probably turn down a little bit. Let me pause it. Let me bring this back up. Let's coin it up. So let's pick the standard driver. Yeah, it's got Offspring in it, the music, so I'm probably going to get a YouTube content ID on this one, but never mind. It's worth it just to show it a little bit. But yeah, the main driver, as it is in MAME, actually runs the game at about half speed, even if it, you know, says it's running faster. But with the hacks for the rendering time, I made it run closer to what it's meant to run. It's just frame skipping a lot. But yeah, I mean, this actually runs faster when I'm not streaming. I think OBS is hogging quite a few of my resources at the moment. So when I'm not streaming, this actually runs at 100% speed with frame skip 8 with the modifications in the driver. Also, yeah, the music stopped working because apparently that happens. Yeah, which one am I doing?
Come on, let's go. Yeah, I got it.
I can't go this way, can I?
What are you, stupid? Yeah.
You can see it actually runs pretty fast.
Can't you be more careful?
So, yeah, the point with this is, yeah, the Naomi driver does run slow in MAME, and therefore you could say it's quite badly emulated. There are various graphical glitches too. But, you know, if the work was put in, there is no reason that this couldn't run at full speed, I feel. It's, you know, it's completely realistic that the driver could be improved so that, you know, these games ran at full speed. A few optimizations to the recompiler, a better threaded model for the rendering, so you know you run your threads in time with how long the rendering should take. You split the rendering up into, you know, tiles like the original PowerVR would, and I think, you know, this could run at a better speed. I'm not going to do anything in this end. As you can see, I'm actually able to play the game like this. It doesn't run great.
Go that way.
Yeah, I got it.
And yeah, I mean, licensed music could sell games. I mean, look at Tony Hawk's. The licensed music really made that game. Everybody remembers the music from it.
Don't worry about it.
Oop, been that time.
Time's up.
Look at the time.
All right.
Go that way.
Check out how you did today. Now let's take a look.
Yeah,
Class,
I say it actually looks and runs a lot better than you expect. So I need the threading hack I put in for it to run at 100% speed here. But with that hack, it is a playable game, and that hack could be done in a far better way.
Here we go.
And then you'd have Crazy Taxi running at 100% speed without hacks, I'm sure. But doing it properly is a little bit beyond my understanding. Now, I will look at one or two other Naomi games, I feel, before I move on, because, you know, Crazy Taxi isn't entirely representative. And some Naomi games do just crash outright. I mean, Metal Slug 6 will crash as soon as you insert a coin. Death Crimson OX crashes on startup. So, not everything runs, but Crazy Taxi itself does. Now, there is also an interesting emulation bug if you leave Crazy Taxi in the track mode, where the demo isn't synced and the car will crash into everything. But that's not MAME specific. In fact, the other Dreamcast emulators have exactly the same bug, which is kind of interesting. I guess it's a timing thing or a precision thing with some of the maths, so the demo doesn't quite work as it should.
I didn't expect to get here so fast.
Wait, you've got to pick me up.
Yeah, I've made this. I meant to go fast in this, but I'm not doing that.
Come on, you're in a hurry, right?
Yeah, Sega will re-release this on everything they can, I think. It's one of their classic games, one a lot of people really love and remember. You know, an open city driving game, fast-paced.
Go that way.
Yeah, I got it.
So,
That was
so, I mean, it's a bit like GTA, but with a more limited context. I mean, you had the taxi missions in GTA that were very, very like Crazy Taxi in a way. At least if you did them the way I did them.
move it.
So this is one of those games you get points for near misses. So it's a bit like bullet grazing in the shooters. But, cars.
Go that way.
Just shut up and let's go.
Now I'm sure if you know all the shortcuts on the map, you can do this a lot better than me. But it's been a long time since I've played Crazy Taxi properly.
Yeah, I know. And on the next one.
Thanks.
I've done better.
Now some of the games that use more blending effects tend to be quite bad. If you load up like Capcom vs SNK 2, all the hit effects are black boxed.
Right here.
Thanks. Take me to church.
Okay, hang on.
Yeah, a lot of things start on smartphones these days, especially arcade games. You go into an arcade these days, and half of what's in there is a port of the smartphone
Go
game.
straight.
Yeah, I got it. Time's running out.
Oh, that hurt. Pay more attention. Hey.
Yep. We're almost out of time.
Let's move it. Oh,
Time up.
time. You suck.
All right, it's time to check out how you did.
House of the Dead 2 is more of a mess than this cow.
Class D license.
Class D.
I can't believe it. Was that your best? I don't think so.
That was my best.
Game over.
Yeah, I mean... So that is a slightly modified version of MAME, but I wanted to show it so that maybe to inspire somebody to look at it and improve it. I mean, we can have a look at another Naomi game while we're at it, because you know they do all run okay if you try and thread the rendering, or to a degree anyway. But it's not really safe. It's not thread safe, so some games do break more this way, which is again why it's not included. But what I was saying is that it could be done properly. There's nothing stopping somebody actually rewriting the Naomi driver and having it run at full speed. I'm sure it could be done. So yeah, let's have a look at Guilty Gear.
Please select your character.
Yeah, I think some of the ports lost the soundtracks too, didn't they? Which was one of the issues with them.
Heaven or hell. Duel 1. Let's rock.
Now this is clearly the character is very much like Juggernaut in the Marvel vs. Capcom games. Big, brute character, strength, large amounts of damage. Probably take this one down to frame skip 7, no, okay 8. I'll leave on 8. Yeah, Time Crisis was fixed about 2 years ago, Mr. Midas, so the helicopter is no longer invincible. It's been fixed for a while now. That works fine. Otherwise, that would be eligible for this list. But yeah, no, Time Crisis is fully playable these days. So, yeah, I mean, this is badly emulated because at the moment the performance is rather bad and it could be improved. If it was bad and I thought there was no chance of it being improved, I wouldn't have included it. But, you know, I think the code could be better, the emulation could be faster. So, you know, I've included it anyway. With this demonstration that, with a few hacks, you can get them to playable speed. And no, I've not looked at Time Crisis 2, Cow. Yeah, Guilty Gear seems to be a very popular series. There seem to be multiple titles on any modern platform, Santeri, I've noticed. Never really been one I've liked that much, but I appreciate the art style, you know, the high resolution sprites, hand drawn. I think it looks great, but say I'm not a big fighter fan myself, so I can only appreciate things more on a surface level. But, see, these 2D Naomi games, though, especially, they should be even easier to get running at full speed, I feel. I mean, this is 100% speed, it's just frame skip 8 at the moment. So take the frame skip down, it does get a bit slower. But, you know, this is Guilty Gear. I mean, we'll move on briefly to one more Naomi game before we move on entirely to a different system. But again, you get the idea with these Naomi games. Yeah, mid-2000s anime, that's probably about right. Time Crisis 2, if I'd prepared it, I might have included it, but I didn't prepare for it, so... Yeah, Ikaruga, this is correct. Now, this one does glitch out quite badly after a while. So, won't be playing too much of it. And it's a bit slower too. But, you know, it's one of the classic Naomi games, isn't it? And I'm completely out of practice on it. But I do like how cinematic this is for a shooter. It was definitely one of the later games, wasn't it? And then got ported to things like the GameCube. Now this one is slowing down even with frame skip 8 because you know, it's doing a lot more than some of the other games in terms of, you know, all the models are really detailed. There's loads of blending going on. It might be a 2D shooter at heart, but this one does push the hardware quite a bit. Yeah, you can tell it's not well emulated. And once I get to the boss, it will completely break, so we won't play too much more of that one. Anyway, that is the Naomi section of this video done. I was going to play the Puzzle Bobble game, but, you know, probably won't. Right, let's have a look at one of the ones that every time there's a 68K FPU fix gets a little test to see if it works again. Now, this is the Mac driver, the Macintosh LC3 driver in MAME, and one of the games that's included on the hard disk image that's in the software list. Indeed, we have the Mac. So let's speed through the boot process a little bit. Or try to. So, welcome to MacOS. Now, I probably don't need the CRT filter for this one, to be fair, but it's still turned on. Actually, let's turn it off. The CRT filter does not look good on a Mac. Good old Mac. You absolutely need the CRT filter. The CRT filter was hurting my eyes, so I turned it off. The computer may not be shut down properly. Oops. Bad me. So yeah. So what's the game on this one? If you go to the Apple menu and you bring up Jigsaw Puzzle, it looks like this. Now, if I go Start New Puzzle, I go Medium. No, let's go Medium. I press OK. Oh, hey Robbie, what is awesome? The Mac. It does this. Now, it seems to be an FPU bug, but we're not entirely sure, because every time there's an FPU fix, we do look at it, we do see if it's been fixed, anything's improved with it. It's also quite slow because, you know, it's not the fastest Mac we're emulating here. The slowness isn't an emulation glitch. The slowness is just because yeah, it's it's quite a slow Mac we're emulating. So yeah, if I put some pieces together, so yeah, it's like the calculation is moving in. I can't move this piece any further left either, so you know it's quite confused about where everything is. I can probably move this piece to join up with it. I think this piece joins up with it. And that's pieces joined up there. Now I can move them that way, can I? Yeah, now I can move them that way. So, I mean, they say that's broken. If I do the large puzzle, yeah, I know. Yeah, this probably needed a faster Mac in the first place. It's quite a slow Mac, but the large puzzle's the same. You see, it's broken. But we can at least do the large puzzle. There we go, join together. Wasn't close enough, was it? There we go. Let's put this here. So yeah, let's say it looks like it's a 68k FPU issue, but so far over the years, none of the 68k FPU fixers have helped with it. So it's quite a confusing one. And the 68k has obviously seen a fair bit of attention. But everything is going to sort of a zero coordinate. It's like it's losing the coordinate for... losing a coordinate somewhere along the way. There we go. I've remade that puzzle. And there you go. Now, if you select Start New Puzzle and select Small, it just does this. It does Creating Puzzle. It never creates the puzzle. It will do this forever. It has now crashed. So medium and large puzzles are corrupt. Small puzzles don't create. And, you know, it's surprising because the Mac drivers have seen huge improvements over the last year or so. And they run a lot more software now. And even some of the PowerPC Macs are coming up. But still, this issue with the 68k Macs on this Jigsaw puzzle remains. I mean, I'm assuming it works on the original model, on original hardware. Nobody's ever said it doesn't. It would be very strange if it didn't, because it's one of the simpler games. But yeah, it must be an emulation issue with the FPU, or another part of the 68030. Maybe it's a 68030 specific issue somewhere else, but it's almost certainly some kind of CPU emulation issue with either the FPU or the other part of the CPU. Yeah, there you go. So that's broken. That's always been broken. So it's one, if anybody knows about the Mac, might be worth looking into improving. Let's go with another racing game. This one is not marked as not working. I think it should probably be marked as not working. This is TCH's Wheels of Fire. Wheels and Fire, even. Now you can already see it's a bit of a mess here. There's layer issues. That it's row scrolling wrong things. Yeah. Black holes are indeed emulation bugs. You get low frame rates in parts of your hometown, Robbie. Are there too many buildings? Or too many people? So you can already see from the demo that's running here, this is a bit of a mess. And I think it's also running too fast. It's similar hardware to Reality Tennis that we looked at on another stream, and that had to have the CPU slowed right down to run at reasonable speed. Then it flickers like this on the high score table. This is a strange piece of hardware with a frame buffer and blitter. And it's a Spanish game. But yeah, there are many emulation issues. Yeah, it's like an Amiga game on steroids, Johnny, you are correct. I think it's too fast, but obviously it wants to be kind of your Lotus type racer. Very, very Amiga, very European. But yeah, whenever the screen, whenever it's trying to do a raster effect like that on the hills, it breaks, and the code in the driver to handle the raster effects is kind of bad. It flickers a lot. The zooming's better than it used to be, and it's one of those odd games with very obviously digitized graphics that look completely out of place. And you've got the very angry woman there telling you you're being too slow. It's definitely not a classic. I'm gonna run out of time. No, oh, I ran out of time. So I went past the finish line, but ran out of time anyway. It's not one of the games that lets you pass and then that gives you anyway. It lets you pass it and then still says game over. The car is light speed. It is kind of fast, isn't it? At the same time, it doesn't really feel like it's on the track. It just feels like it's floating. So, yeah, to me, this doesn't really meet what I would call MAME standards for a working game. It is still marked as working. I don't think it should be. It's too glitchy, and the speed seems all wrong. Although I've never played an original to tell you, but... Interesting that the signs say Powerball. The game's not called Powerball. The only Powerball game I know is a Playmark game. Position 15 qualified, apparently. Ooh, more flickery. Level 2. And it's pretty much the same thing with a different background. And also the sound appears to have died. Because, it's not very well emulated. Yeah, it probably has lots of issues with both Extreme 2000. It's quite an ambitious project for a TCH game. But yeah, it's the sound's completely died. Glorious. I wonder if it'll come back when I game over. Or if the sound is just gone for good now until I reset. So I think you can see why this one is being featured on the stream. This is not a well emulated game. So timeout, I still get to race the finish. Yeah, okay. And it flickers. The zooming didn't really zoom, it just sort of drew a window on the sprites and made them bigger and smaller without zooming in. So yeah, it appears to... The countdown continues really slow, and yeah, the sound is gone. Okay, reset it. Let's try again. So, I can select a different track at least. I can start on level 2. I've got a different car this time. Look at my shiny silver car. The sound still seems quite bad even after a reset. Oh dear. And yeah, it's flickering worse than it did before. So yeah, I might go and demote this to not working, because I don't think anybody's going to fire this up in MAME and think, yeah, this game works fine. Because it don't work fine. Not in any sense. Now, it might be a fairly easy target if somebody wanted to try and improve it. It might just need some love and attention and some studying. I don't really know. I mean, typically these Spanish games aren't that complex. So let's pour a little drink. More rum today. Yeah, let's turn that off as well. It's too flickery. So today's rum is the Kraken, which is always a nice rum. But it's not a pirate stream. Yeah, I don't think you can judge the programming on the graphics extreme. I mean, it's actually using raster effects to split the screen, which is kind of a more advanced programming technique than a lot of games would use, and it's kind of funky. I don't think it's necessarily badly coded. I think it's just not the best game, not the best, most well-designed game. Right. Let's put another that I put in the preview image that I did demote to not working a while back. This is Subsino's Last Fighting. It runs on an H8-based processor. I don't think it uses internal ROM mode because all the code seems to be external. It's by Subsino in 2000, or at least published by Subsino. I don't know if they developed it, because Subsino, more of a gambling company, although Subsino's name is on Penguin Brothers, which is one of my favourites. But, yeah. This seems to work and was marked as working in MAME for a long time, but to me it has issues. There's no sound, for one. The sound is completely unemulated. If there is an internal one, maybe it's related to sound, some cause for that, but I think the sound is just unemulated. Maybe it's a different MCU itself. I don't know. But this is a Bomberman clone. And it's relatively well presented. My issue is, look how fast the push start is flashing. Now look how fast the timer goes. Look how fast the character moves. It's all in turbo mode. It's like you can't really control it properly. It feels far too fast. It feels like it's running at double speed. Or at least maybe more than double speed. I mean, the character is just uncontrollably fast. I'm pretty sure it's not meant to be like this. No, it definitely should have sound. It's just not emulated. It's probably a custom Subsino thing. But yeah, now it's one of those Bomberman games where you have to find the exit as well. But look, the time's been going so fast, I'm already out of time. Because you can't play it at the speed the timer is running at. I'm not going to run out of time again. Because again, it's so fast that... See, is that the exit? Yeah, that's the exit. But to me, this is not a working game due to the speed it runs at. And as far as I know, it's always been this ridiculously fast in MAME. I don't know why, but you can't take the time to plant your bombs and still have time to finish the level. I don't know if this is professionally programmed or not. It's got nicer graphics. It's got quite high resolution graphics, actually. I mean, that might be some of the problem. I mean, no, it's only 240 high, actually, so it's not an interlace game. It's just wider resolution, which makes it look higher. Yeah, it's... look at the speed of the continue countdown, too. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, it seems to be running too fast. I can't work out why it's running too fast. I did look into it. There doesn't seem to be any kind of wait loop. It's not the only Subsino game that has speed issues. Some of the gambling games do too. And again, they don't make much sense. There we go. Winners flashing too quickly as well. Yeah, a lot of those old packs did canonize bad behavior of emulation in the, you know, mid zeros, late 90s, Mister. Unfortunately, I mean, you know, some of the bad behavior in Bubble Bobble and Operation Wolf was as well. It's just one of those things that happens. But yeah, this is, so it's too fast to really play, which is why I demoted it to not working. I mean, I don't have a hardware video to show what it's meant to be like, but why am I blowing for toilet? I can tell it's not quite right, is it? I mean, you can't... I don't think Wheels of Fire felt badly programmed, Wheels on Fire. It just didn't feel much fun. I mean, I think the emulation glitches made it look worse than it was. Neither game felt as badly programmed as, say, Konami's Overdrive that we looked at earlier. As much fun as that was, that's very much a disaster of programming. You can't place the bombs. Now find exit. I mean, you get the idea. It runs too quickly. It's very difficult to play. Another that I demoted around the same time is an Eolith game, Raccoon World. Now, Eolith are quite famous because they're one of the companies that ended up being involved with SNK's IP after SNK went bankrupt. So, you know, King of Fighters 2001 was from Eolith. But when they weren't doing that, before they did all that, they did a whole bunch of Korean games. This is one of the ones from 1998, which is Raccoon World. And this is another where there seem to be speed issues. And I think it's down to the Hyperstone timers or something like that, because it doesn't matter what you set the CPU clock to, or the V-blank weights to, or if you remove the driver idle skips, it always does this. Look how fast everything's flickering. Look how fast the timer's animating. Look how fast these sprites there are animating. Everything is just moving and animating ridiculously quickly. And it kind of doesn't feel right at all. Look at these enemies. Look how fast they're moving. You've got a real Phoenix PCB. Most Phoenix PCBs seem to be bootlegs. There are so many bootlegs of that game. It's ridiculous. Also, yeah, this uses the QDSP sound, which is also not well emulated. So, double reason for this to be on the list. But I did demote this because, you know, the speed is just so wrong. I don't think the Hourglass should be animating like that. But again, I don't have any original reference material to show me what this is meant to be like. But I can't for a minute believe it's meant to be like this. The Hyperstone is a processor. I mean, I think they advertised it as a RISC, but really it's a CISC processor. It's a very complex processor. It's one that was used by quite a few Korean games. I mean, I don't really know what you want me to say about it. Even this menu here, I can't select the stage because it moves that quickly. But it's not the only Eolith game that feels too fast. But it is the only one I demoted for now. My time's already out. Turbo Hacksaw Pac-Man. So this is that was a game. That was a continue counter. Let me not enter my name. Yeah. It has issues. But yeah, there were a lot of them. I mean, Eolith also did Linky Pipe. And again, this feels like it's immediately off to a very fast start. It's not as bad as Raccoon World, but it's still... Oh, I forgot how much I dislike this game. This is one of the worst puzzle games I've ever played. Look, everything explodes really quickly there. Oh yeah, you can rotate. You can rotate the bit that's highlighted. I forget. Yeah. But this still feels too fast, and basically all the Eolith games that run on Hyperstone hardware seem to have some kind of pace issue. I think the hidden catch ones are okay, but the other ones, I hate this game. There's not often I hate a puzzle game, but this puzzle game I really hate. Again, the countdown continue countdown. Look how fast it's going. I think some of the Pac-Man anniversary things include a faster mode, don't they? I think they're sticking their tongues out more quickly because it's too fast, possibly. You say there's that one. I think this one feels far too fast as well in places. If it's the one I'm thinking of. Puzzle King, Dance and Puzzle, another 98 Eolith one. The opponent appears to be called Crap. Quite possibly. Again, it seems to be going kind of fast in the attract mode here. Insert coin is very fast. The tutorial here is too fast to follow. This seems like quite an interesting puzzle game. It's kind of a mix between a block dropping one and a tile match one. Again, it's quite fast here. Main play. So you do that. I can match that with that. I can match that with that. I can take control of that. But it's very fast and very slippery. Yeah, just put that there. But you have to manually swap between the dropping piece and the cursor, which is a very odd way of doing a puzzle game, I have to say. But look, I mean, again, to me, this is just running far too quickly. Yeah, they're not meant to start really fast, though, are they? They're meant to start quite slowly, and that one starts too fast. And say, I think it's the timers in the Hyperstone core, because if you change the timing of the timers, the gameplay speed gets much better. But they probably need double checking against the actual Hyperstone manual or something. Anyway, that's enough of the Eolith ones. Shall we go to another racing game that is badly emulated? Now, this one used to be able to blue screen my PC even on Windows 10. So if the stream goes dead, that's probably what's happened. I don't know how it does it. It must just corrupt some driver memory that it shouldn't have access to, but somehow does. This is Konami's Racing Force, which is one of the ones that uses the voxel rendering technique on top of one of the rotation layers. And we don't really know how it works. So there is a debug key in this that lets you see a rough version of the road, but the layers aren't mixed together by default. Voxel rendering technique. No, Voxel Santeri. Although Voxel would be a good sponsor. If I press W, which is the debug key, I can see the road. So if I go like this, you can get around here. But yeah, the 3D effect is a post-process effect, the height map that gets applied to the road layer. And mixing them all together is a bit of a nightmare. It's a unique technology. Konami used it for this game and Golfing Greats too, but you don't see much else like it. This is on the rotation layer. So anyway, we'll insert a coin. We'll go for the high-speed circuit. Yeah, this is really complex for 2D. Really, this isn't 3D. It's a fake 3D effect. You see, I can view the road or the car, so you know. Let's race. So this feels to me like a bit of a sequel to WEC Le Mans. WEC Le Mans. It's probably easy to race when you can't see the. Oh, okay, I say that, and then I crash into a car I couldn't see. I'm not on the road, am I? Let's pretend I'm on the road. There we go. Let's race like this. Now it feels like one of those 70s racing games. But yeah, the visual effect in this is a little bit glitchy on real hardware, but actually really impressive for a 2D system. The way they've given everything a height, and it kind of makes it look almost 3D. But obviously MAME's not emulating that, and I'm just hitting the debug key to view where the track is so I can get an idea and not crash into things. So this isn't really how you play Racing Force, is it? But it's how I'm playing Racing Force. So there. But yeah, this is one of those that I've looked at a few times and tried to work out how on earth the effect works and given up. I mean, one of the issues is it requires the actual rotation there, the thing you're seeing when I hold down the debug key here, to be perfectly accurate in the first place. And it isn't. So when you're trying to post-process an effect that's not accurate in the first place, it's a bit of a problem. Yeah, it's like the game plays in two separate dimensions. Pretty much is what's going on here, though. Now, if you notice the road sort of curves in this view, that is because when they applied the post-processing effect, it works on the pixels that are output on the rotation layer. So in order to ensure things aren't flickering too much in the background, you know, in the distance, they've tried to give the distant part of the tile map more pixels by curving it like that and compensating for the curve in the chip that does the 3D effect, the voxel chip. So that's why it sort of bends upwards in this view. It looks like I'm always driving on a hill. It's because they wanted the extra precision on the tile map, the rotation tile map, before they post-process it, or the output from it. Whereas the stuff close to the camera already has enough detail because the pixels are bigger. You know, it's not going to drop pixels. There still does a bit of dropout where things flicker quite a bit in the far background on the real PCB, and that is because in some frames you see in some frames the pixels are there and in some frames they're not, and so it's stretching pixels that flicker in out of view, and yeah. I mean, I can auto flicker. Well, I can't. I can flicker it like this, which is even harder to play. But I can see the car now. You know, this is probably this is me manually hitting the W debug key. Oh no, that's even hard to play. Let's just play it like this. So yeah, I don't think I have to explain why I consider this to be badly emulated. It is marked as not working. It's going to require a lot more work to get it working. It's one of the remaining big challenges for 2D emulation, I'd say, is Racing Force, and obviously Open Golf Championship Golfing Greats 2, which is the same type of hardware. Yeah, there's lots of reference footage of this one on YouTube, thankfully, as Mr. Agner points out. Yeah, so check that out if you want to have a look at how it should look. Yeah, Mode 7 with height maps. Basically, any pixel can be stretched to be a different height, so it stretches the pixel vertically, and it calculates that based on what's in a height map rotation layer, along with the distance, some kind of Z distance. It's not clear how it works at all. Wasn't the Fong shading hardware the one that Sega did Brave Firefighters on? Hikaru, Mr. Agner. I think that was one of the big selling points of the Hikaru hardware that had Brave Firefighters and Planet Harriers on, is that it could do hardware Fong shading and the like. There's actually a PS1 game called LSD. Yeah, I've played that. That's an odd game, as you'd expect. Anyway, so yeah, you get the idea with that one. It's a bit of a mess, is it not? So, where shall we go from here? Let's go with one that, again, this is one that's not marked as not working in MAME, but really, really should be. This has never worked in MAME, but it appears to. This is Konami's The End from 1980. There is a bootleg version that does work. The original versions are protected. Now, I don't know if I'm going to play this well enough to show you the glitch, because it's one of those where you have to be good at the game. But it looks very Galaxian-like, doesn't it? It sounds quite Galaxian-like. Yeah, at least it didn't blue screen. So I think that was a dodgy video driver that you could corrupt the user memory of. So the idea of this game is you've got to stop the pieces getting stolen. Now the Stern version is quite different because you're above the pieces, but on the original Konami version you are below them, which means you can't even shoot a lot of the enemies. But again, I'm usually not good enough at this to actually reproduce the bug without a cheat, but rest assured it does reproduce without a cheat if you're good enough. So we'll see what happens, we'll see how far I get. But yeah, you have to clear several rounds. There are various protection checks at certain events between rounds, and they cause the game to basically run the wrong round, run the wrong sequence of events. So you get bonus rounds when you're not meant to have bonus rounds, you get extra lives when you're not meant to have extra lives. All sorts of nonsense like that. Now you are meant to stop them stealing the letters, and I've lost a life already. I should have probably put extra lives on. Now when they do steal them, some more come along. As long as they don't spell the end. If they spell the end, the game is immediately over. Or end as it is. This is why the game's called The End. Which game got ported to the Master System? But yeah, one of the things this will do if the protection fails is give you infinite lives, which obviously is a bad thing in arcades. Another thing it will do sometimes is give you bonus rounds out of place and not clear things that are meant to be cleared after rounds, and it generally makes the game unplayable after a while. And it's always been like that in MAME. It has never worked. And it's never been marked as not working. It's always been marked as working, but it has always been broken. Which is kind of funny because it's been in MAME for probably 20 years. But yeah, the problem is you do have to be good at the game to trigger the bug. Which, as you can see, I'm not very good at the game. And it's not one of those games where you can give yourself infinite lives and just do it that way, because the enemy, you know, the game's still over if they build the end. And also, I think sometimes if the protection fails, they can write the end and it won't game over when it's meant to game over, things like that. Yeah, giving players infinite lives is a very sneaky... See, chance time I think it's meant to be a bonus round, but I don't think it's actually doing chance time now. I think it's just started another regular round. But I'm not sure. Or maybe this is chance time. I honestly can't remember. It's been a while since I studied it. Yeah, they built the end and it was game over. But that was meant to be chance time, which I think is meant to be a bonus round with different behaviour. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure the bootleg gets everything right. Can I have more lives? I can have. So you can give yourself infinite lives there, but that doesn't really help me. I don't know. If the bootlegs get it wrong in places, then they're not going to help. But I don't know if they do. So the checks are quite sneaky. But it applies to both original versions, the Konami and the Stern version. And maybe, I don't know if all the bootlegs work correctly, or if some of the bootlegs are still protected because they're just hacks, or the bootleggers didn't notice all the protections. It's annoying. I mean, the protection device is just some kind of PAL. But, you know, sometimes those are the most frustrating, because they're not MCUs you can dump, they just have some foregrounding behaviour that you might miss. Oh. I think I'm going to get a berserk robot in a second, based on what I can see. Okay, there we go. Thank you, Santeri, for the €50 for the 50 simultaneous viewers. Yeah, this has been quite a popular stream, considering I'm just playing broken games. And as always, you know, the donation there is greatly appreciated. I've been stream drinks and any kind of, you know, random devices I see for sale. So, you know, we've been buying up juice box cartridges and the like recently too. Sean's got a bunch of those. There's a few more on the way to him, including the WWE ones. So, terrible video cartridges being dumped. Yeah, more funds for me to buy a final lot. So, as always, Santari, it's much appreciated, and, you know, thank you for your own contributions over the years to MAME as well. You know, the WIP page back in the day and everything. You know, you're an important part of the community here, and an important part of, you know, MAME's history yourself. So, it's good to know I've got that support from, you know, people who have been involved for a long time. So yeah, without cheats though, I think this is going to be quite difficult to show you all the bugs. So yeah, I mean, arcades are meant to make money. So if the arcade is giving, you know, the game's giving players infinite lives, the arcade isn't making any money, which is kind of why some arcade games do that as protection. You know, if they make the game too easy, it's not helping the arcade. Who would have thought aiming at little creatures would be so difficult? Come on, I've got... This How does the star... I mean, it's... I'm not sure of the technical side of the Starfield myself. Again, this is flashing chance time, and I'm pretty sure this isn't chance time. Come on. Trying to get rid of some of these aliens. Set the UFO. Nice simple task. So now it tallies them up. I'll keep playing it. I'll see if I can actually glitch it so it gives me the infinite lives, but I'm not sure. Ideally, it's one of those where we need a good player with the original board to show how the game plays fully on that. And I guess it's not a common game anymore, at least not originals. Again, we found people that said they've got original boards, but they just had a bootleg board. And a bootleg board doesn't tell us that much. It's becoming increasingly common, actually. People think, oh, PCB, it must be original, but a lot of PCBs aren't originals, they're bootlegs. Unfortunately, I think they're going to have the better of me here. Oh, can somebody let System 11's message through? Oh well, game over. Yeah, it's... water in cars is not usually a good thing. So we'll just briefly look at the Stern version of the game, see if we can glitch that in any interesting ways. Yeah, sometimes we've had games we've thought were original that turned out to be bootlegs. It happened quite a lot with the Sega System 16 games back in the day. I mean, a lot of what the System 16 emulator was trying to emulate turned out to be bootlegs. It's quite funny, actually. I've spent most of today trying to fix up one of the System 18 Alien Storm bootleg. Oh, I should give myself more lives first, actually. Yeah, I mean, try and keep it friendly, family-friendly System 11, but the occasional thing I don't mind too much, but I just don't want to get out of hand in terms of, you know, language. But for Bubble Bobble, for a long time, we thought the 68705 jump was an original MCU when it was just the bootleg MCU. So yeah, it happens more often than you might think. Operation Wolf, we thought the bootleg C chip was actually a clone of the original when it was nothing to do with it. The ship is a beetle in this one. Unfortunately, again, I've not done a great job of demonstrating the glitches in this, but you do have to be a better player. But you see on the Stern version, the bases are below you, so you have to dodge the enemies more, but at the same time you also can shoot them more easily, so it's a bit of a trade-off. So it plays very differently as a result, though. I don't know if it's more difficult or not. I'm terrible at the game, though. This is going well. I'm going to say this is more difficult because I'm just doing worse on it, but... Also, it seems to take less letters to write the end. But... Second attack. Sorry I'm not reading some of the chat. I'm trying to concentrate on the game at the moment. Because ideally I want to demonstrate a bug, but if I can't, then I can't. Ah, got me from below. Yeah, that's the one I mentioned, Santeri. And same for the Night Boy, Kiki Kai. That's got a 6875. The original MCU on that one's still not been dumped yet either. And Mexico 86 bootleg of Kick and Run. For a long time, the 68705 from that was being used for the originals. Without realising it was not the original. That one was dumped though, although not 100% sure the dump is perfect. It's not sure what the protection does in it and not studied it. And it did have to be manually repaired, be manually repaired to an extent. Again, that's one of the issues with games like this, where the bugs are kind of hard to reproduce. You know, you don't know if you fixed it. You think you fixed it, and then you find out somebody else plays it and it's not fixed at all. Wheels and Fire was the Spanish racing game. So yeah, I'm probably not going to get anywhere on this. I find this set much harder actually. The problem is you don't really want to use cheats on these things because you worry that they might influence the protection behaviour. I mean, I don't know what cheats we've got available. Eggs don't reappear. Invincibility. I put it on. Let's put only 3 lives and invincibility and see if I can crash it. After this, I'm just going to move on to another game though, because again, I don't want to spend too long on any one game. But let's see if I can crash it with invincibility on. Yeah, I was thinking of featuring Starfighter. Unfortunately, you know, I don't know exactly where it's wrong. I think it's one of those where it's going to be important for people to record original hardware videos. It sounds like a very specific... I'm still trying to avoid these things. A very specific case, because there's no obvious way for that to generate a star field. In fact, I might put that game on next. It wasn't on my list, but as you mentioned it, I could have a look at it. Again, invincibility on this game doesn't actually make it too much easier in some senses because they're still building the letters up there. But if I don't crash it within a few rounds, then you have an original hardware recording 1cc. Yeah, something like that would come in handy as a reference. But it's a bit confusing that such hardware would have a star field, but SunA were often strange. You see, this game, when I was testing it off stream, I managed to get the infinite lives glitch quite easily. Now I've been playing on stream, it does not want to do it. It does not want to do it. Yes, I am cheating now, I am invulnerable, but that's just to see if I can get through the rounds. Well, I mean, I wasn't playing this set when I got it, I was playing the parent set. So I might be doing myself no favours. Yeah, maybe it's just an extra layer or something, but those games have got so many layers of protection. Although I think the V1 set's unprotected from memory. I do worry that cheating is going to make the change how it triggers the bug, because if it's got sneaky protection, sometimes they do that. So yeah, I don't know what triggers the different modes in this version either. I don't know the game sequence, you know. I'm on 4th attack now. Did they have to take a certain number up for it to be chance time? The problem is, watching me play a game with cheats on is obviously not even entertaining. It's just a case of grinding through. And this isn't really meant to be a live bug finding stream. It's meant to be, I know this is broken, I'm trying to demonstrate the bug, but it's not triggering. Next attack. So, yeah, there must be some trigger point for it to actually want to even do the other types of attack. Unless that's broken entirely in this. Because I'm not even getting a chance time in this one. And that's the issue. I don't know what the sequence is meant to be. Yeah, that might be one of the reasons Konami weren't keen on pirates. The heavy bootlegging of Scramble. One of the most bootleg games of all time. So I'm just getting next attack all the time. I'm not getting any chance times here. So I don't know. I'm not getting any UFC. Unless the Stern version doesn't do that. I really don't know. Anyway, I say there are issues with that game. Unfortunately, my ability to show them on stream is not paying off. Anyway, so yeah, let's have a look at. This is another that appears on first glance to work. This is Super Wing by Wing, and it is the second pinball game of the night. Unfortunately, the problem with this one, I think, is a bad dump. If you trigger the bonus round in this, which I believe you do by going around the top there, the game will crash. It appears to try and bank in an extra program ROM, but I think the extra program it tries to bank in is a bad dump, because the data in that ROM does not seem to be correct for any kind of extra table or extra screen. Nope. So short of there being some odd encryption on the extra ROM, I don't think this one can be fixed with simply fixing the driver. I think another PCB is going to be needed, and it's not the most common game, to say the least. Because we've only ever seen one PCB of it. But yeah, there's an unused ROM, and no, you can turn the Starfield off on Galaxian hardware. Some of the Galaxian hardware clones don't have the Starfield. So yeah, what I need to do is trigger the bonus round to crash the game. And that is again going to be easier said than done. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, where it says wing in the top corner, if you get it up there enough times, which I've not managed to do even once, it will crash. Alright, thank you System 11, that would be appreciated. I mean, it is good to have those things on record. I'll probably put the game on next. You might just have to take my word for it on this one, because again, this is one of those that was marked as working in MAME for a while, because it seemed to work, but then you know, I saw people playing it on I think it might be another one of Lord BBH's streams, I don't remember. Oh, thank you for the subscription. Is that Furcyful? We know who dumped it. They no longer have the PCB link. It was dumped by Docs, and it was a very bad condition PCB. But he no longer has his arcade PCBs. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to trigger the bonus round, but if you trigger the bonus round at the top left, that one will crash, because it appears to try and bank in a different program ROM that does not contain the data it's meant to contain. At least I couldn't find the data in it. Okay, so oh no, this is the one where there's only one set. In fact, it's Brick Zone where the V1's the unprotected set. Starfighter, there's only the V1 set. 1990 SunA. Now this is the one System 11 was talking about in the chat, where there is a missing Starfield and all the boards have like a suicide chip. Dogs is still around. He doesn't really do much in the way of main development these days, Ramses. So is the starfield meant to be on this scene now with the planets? Ah, yeah. Yeah, Brick Zone's interesting because we did get that earlier revision that seems to be unprotected, but this is version 1 of this and it is protected, so... SunA like using classical tunes and classical pieces for their music. Very Gallagher 88 inspired this with the fireworky explosions. That's not a good start, is it? So yeah, for a SunA game, this is actually quite impressive. I mean, I'm not saying it's a revolutionary, amazing game, and it's completely all over the place in terms of content. But they could have done a lot worse. Atari Jaguar flip out. Looking at the, you mentioned Checkered Flag by Konami the other day, Dink. Looking at the source notes in MAME, that's definitely one that I could potentially put on this list too. There seem to be a fair few emulation issues with it, which are probably protection related. But yeah, System 11 mentions this game is missing a star field. And unfortunately, as I say, the PCBs are all suicide PCBs with no known way to repair them once they're dead. If we don't emulate it by the original references, it might become incredibly difficult to emulate. The annoying thing with the SunA PCBs is, say, the protection. They've got RAM addresses that simply seem to be write protected, so in certain cases, the writes are meant to have no effect. Same with ports. Things are mapped all over the place. They're odd mirrors you don't expect to be mirrors. Checkered Flag is just a generic racing term. The Atari version is a different spelling to the Konami version. I mean, I think there's a Checkered Flag game on the Spectrum. So yeah, I don't think this game really knows what it wants to be. It is all sorts of shooter elements, no consistent theme, but it's not a terrible game. But you can, now that it's mentioned the starfield's missing, it does feel like there's something missing. I guess I should look in the graphics ROMs to see if there's anything that looks like a starfield in them. I don't think anybody cares about the SunA games in general. I mean, there was a bug in Sparkman fixed, I think last year or the year before. Nobody had reported it until then, even though it's been emulated for a while. I just don't think anybody plays SunA games or cares about them being emulated or preserved, or they'd just rather see them lost. Unfortunately, that seems to be a growing opinion that, some things are better off not saved, and you'd be better off taking them out of MAME and forgetting about them. And it's a shame that people feel that way. But I think some of these SunA games are ones that, people feel that way about. They think they're worthless games that are just taking up space, even though they're tiny. This is clearly inspired by things like Gallagher 88 with the ratios and the fireworks. But it's also different, it's its own thing. Yeah, it is an awful attitude, but I mean, I've been getting a lot with these plug-and-play things. It's like, people seem to hate the fact I've been looking at them, emulating them. And yes, some of them are terrible, but I don't think they should just be thrown in the trash. Yeah, Korea is fascinating when it comes to their arcade games. Some of them are really good. I mean, I'd say I really like Semicon stuff. SunA are interesting in terms of the protections and the use of the classical music. But yeah, that's missing a Starfield, apparently. I don't think there's anything else wrong with it. There could be many things wrong with these SunA games that have gone unnoticed because of the protections. It's a problem. Right. Okay, let's go with a bit of golf. Oh, you're off, Dink. Okay, take care. See you. I mean, I think I give bad games plenty of love. But yeah, they do need love too. Seta presents the Eagles Cup in... That's an eagle's eye. Oh, look, it's a fancy 3D rendering thing. Now, this is kind of interesting hardware. It uses the ST0016 system on a chip, a Z80 based chip that can do graphics and sound all in one. And there are some games like Nurachu that only use that chip for the entire game. This pairs it with a MIPS processor. So if you look at the hardware info, you've got your ST16, 8 MHz, and then you've got 25 MHz R3051. Now, the ST0016 is doing all the HUD, all the overlay, whereas the MIPS processor is rendering the backgrounds, all the course and everything else. Racing Force was done earlier, Game Glitcher. Yeah, it's quite a fancy sequence, the Eagle sequence there. One other interesting thing about this is the handshake the CPU does on the startup. The 68K and not 68, the Z80 and the MIPS, a handshake with one of them saying FUCK and the other applying YOU. And that is how they talk to each other on startup. And that is just a very random fact, but it's for some reason they decided that was how they were going to handshake them. So the issue with this game is one you'll see shortly. For the most part, the ball is invisible. Where's the ball? Occasionally you'll see the ball appear. It'll flicker into display and you'll see the ball for a little bit. But otherwise, you're staring at a screen where there's no ball. Now, I don't know which CPU is meant to be handling the ball graphic, if it's the ST0016 or the MIPS. But you see it when it's high in the air, but then when it gets lower, it vanishes. No ball. Now, it doesn't really stop the game being playable, but it certainly feels wrong. You know, you want to see the ball rolling along towards the hole and everything else, and you don't. It's not visible most of the time. Yeah, so it's there then, but then invisible again. Invisible here. No, it's not gone in. It's on the green somewhere. So it went in, but you couldn't see it. It was invisible. Eagles can't see the golf balls very well. Maybe not, but this is a super eagle. Maybe it's been shot in the eye. Maybe that's what, you know, the whole shot part of the title's about. But it's quite a clever little piece of hardware, this, because they say they've got the coprocessor for doing all the coarse rendering. And in that sense, it works quite well. It's rendering a nice shaded course. It's not taking too long to do it. It's not the only time that the ST0016 has been used with a coprocessor. Some of the shogi games, the Japanese chess equivalent, use it with a dedicated AI processor for the chess logic, and apparently some of that logic is, some of that's based on licensed tech from manufacturers of electronic boards in Japan, and so they just used it as the coprocessor. And in fact, the SSV one with the V60 main processor uses a very similar subprocessor coprocessor as the ST0016 version. So it kind of makes sense that the tech's come from somewhere else, and they've just used it because it's an established AI tech. But yeah, I have 3 feet left. I was only born with 2, but now I have 3. I got a bogey. That is not good. So yeah, you can play it, but it's one of those that I never feel like wanting to play, because without the visible ball, due to the emulation fault, it's not satisfying. Occasionally you'll see the ball. Like here, but then it's gone. Then it's there, it's gone. I think that was a good shot, but I didn't see it roll after it landed, so I don't know. It's 7 foot away. That's a bit too far. Oh, no, yeah. There we go. Yeah, Neo Turf Masters takes some beating game glitcher. But, technically, the way this renders the course is more impressive, but it's not as smooth and the game doesn't play as well. It's not the worst golf game I've played. But it would be nice to see it fixed, because I can't see where the ball lands. I think the Seta boards use about the same number of custom chips as most other things of that period, but the Konami Golfing Greats is one that uses a custom controller in some regions, and Golfing Greats 2 is one that uses the Racing Force tech, so it'd be interesting to see those emulated one day. That's not hard enough, is it? No. But yeah, that's with the ball not visible, that is definitely badly emulated. Okay. Let's go with something a bit different. I did want to feature this on another stream, but then I ran it and found out it really doesn't work very well. This is the Pokemon Mini, which I don't need the video effects on. Slider controls. In fact, I probably want OCD grid. That'll do. So this is marked as working in MAME, but it quickly becomes apparent to me that this is not a working system. So there's no sound, but that's expected. What am I doing? Press A. What's A? Now, I would say look at the timer in the bottom right corner. Or top, wherever it, bottom right corner. That is nonsense. It's an interesting little system, but it's really not well emulated. I mean, cleared. Okay, I've cleared it. The time is still nonsense. Fair enough. Let's go to the second level. Now, here, there's clearly meant to be some kind of scrolling on the background, because I'm colliding against things I can't see now, and it's not scrolling, and the time is still broken. Also, this is the third pinball game of the stream. So, yeah, this is a mess. And basically, every Pokemon mini game I tried is broken in some similar way that really impacts the playability. So, I don't know. Maybe it's another where there's far more known about the system now than there was back then, and it could be improved. But this, to me, should not be marked as a working system in MAME. It seems badly emulated. Yeah, they might not be license compatible though, Vision. That's often a problem. But I've quit out of it. But yeah, that's the pinball game, and you know, I can load up a different game on it because, you know, I tried several. Again, I've got this doesn't save the slider controls. Just turn it off. Whatever. Alt tab and it turns it back on. Yeah, okay. So yeah. Now this one's got some story, going through some forest, something like that. And again, the time is broken in the corner. It's nonsense. I can roll around. Now I'm pretty sure I meant to roll down the steps. Or do something with the steps. But I don't know. I mean, I couldn't work this out. You know, I'm assuming there's some sort of missing collision here. It's not necessarily right. I mean, some of these are already marked as non-working, but I am just saying, you know, some of these are ones I was going to feature on streams, and then I tried to play them and I go, well, I can't feature that. It doesn't work. You know, it should probably work. But yeah, to me, the Pokemon Mini is not a working system in MAME. Let's have a look at a system that's not marked as working, that isn't working. So, the Hartung Game Master uses a fairly obscure UPD 78C11 with internal ROM dumped. Now, I did have somebody ask me if the internal ROM on this was bad, because they were suspicious of it, but I don't know. Apparently it was dumped by Pet back in the day. So that looks a bit like a space cow to me. But yeah, the games are glitchy in various ways. I mean, this is probably one of the worst offenders with all the bullet trails. But a lot of them have windowing problems. Like, they'll try and draw things and they'll get just chopped to the bottom part of the screen. Or they'll draw things outside of the boxes where they're meant to be. And somebody did say they think it's a ROM dump issue with the BIOS ROM, and they think, you know, that it's just been badly done because the cores don't make sense. But again, I've never studied the code, so I can't verify that. And they, you know, I have no input on that subject. It could easily just be a CPU emulation bug, as far as I'm concerned, or a system emulation bug, because the driver code is quite messy. Let's be polite about it. It's quite messy. This is a handheld system, a sort of a Game Boy competitor that never really went anywhere. But yeah, there are a few games for this. So that was one of the worst ones in terms of emulation quality. This is marked as not working, so I don't have any expectations. But it is one of those that, you know, maybe somebody will be interested in fixing, if possible. What do I want? It's just car racing, isn't it? So, yeah, this is what I mean by things get clipped to the bottom of the screen. Here you can see what's meant to be a full screen display, maybe, and it's just displaying at the very bottom of the screen. Doesn't make much sense. Almost feels like a CPU bug or something. But yeah. Another one I feel should be... We're sticking with obscure systems. The Emerson Arcadia, 2001. And Jump Bug. This is an arcade port, but it's meant to have a raster split. I just don't know what the controls are. But say the colour split's meant to be on the ground, but instead it's on the sky, which kind of makes it unplayable. I don't even know what the controls are. Okay, numpad and... Yeah, if I knew the controls, this would be easier. I didn't check this one beforehand. If I knew how to move the player... it's on player 2's controls, okay. So you can play it, kind of. But, you know, you can't see things properly because the colours are wrong. Because it's meant to have the... Say, the green and yellow are meant to be on the ground, not behind everything. So it's kind of making it really hard to see those white sprites. Yeah, it's one that's come up in, you know, when I've been looking for systems with interesting ports, this one has come up. But then the emulation really doesn't hold up well, unfortunately. And again, it's one of those systems where I'm sure, with a bit of attention, MAME's emulation could be massively improved. It's just another old driver that I don't think anybody's touched in 15, 20 years. And it shows. I mean, you know, raster splits aren't the most complex thing to have working. But anyway, that is the state that one is in. Not the best. Where should we go next? I'll go with one that surprises me. Now this game doesn't know if it wants to be widescreen or not widescreen because the deluxe cabinet was widescreen. So put it in widescreen. Widescreen makes some things look pretty good on it. It makes other things look weird. It makes the steering look really stretched, but it makes the wheels in other places look correct because the art in this game, the wheel here is good widescreen. The art's all over the place. The two cabinets, one was widescreen, one wasn't, and the software doesn't seem to know what it wants to do. Oh, you missed the notification. Well, welcome anyway, Jasper. I hope you're doing well. I'm actually going to turn the volume up because this is very quiet by default. And we don't want quiet. Oh, wrong mode. That mirror. I like how it's got an aging mode in the options. What am I doing? What controls I need? How do I get this to shift low and push nitro? Yeah, I want to move on to the next option. Unless you can't. How do I move? I don't know how to navigate the sound test in this one. You should be able to turn the volume up, and it's not on maximum. But apparently I can't do that. Never mind. Anyway, let's just try again. I'll just turn the volume up in OBS. I'll just have to remember to turn it down afterwards. For some reason I couldn't navigate the test menu. Now, I thought it was in the sound test for the volume on these, John. I thought that was how Taito did it. I thought it went into the sound test and moved down to the volume bit and changed it, but it didn't work. Now, the bug in this one, if we speed through the attract mode a bit, I think I might have shown this on stream before. It's a really confusing one, to me at least. Let's speed through it. Now you do get some stuck sprites, but that's not what I'm showing. Now, I personally don't like this game at all. I think it's a terrible sequel. But, you know, that's just personal opinion. So, we'll go through this. This train is not meant to spawn here. And that is the most confusing thing. This train is meant to spawn after the tunnel. It's not meant to be even in play at this point. Which is why it looks really glitchy. It's not meant to be visible in the tunnel because it's not even meant to have spawned yet. For some reason that train is spawning when there is no trigger to spawn it. If you look at real hardware videos, that train spawns after the tunnel. I mean, we'll play it for a little bit.
Listen to the end. Have you got it?
Get going, get going.
Yes, we've got a stuck sprite there as well, so add that to the badly emulated because there are stuck sprites in this. It's not a well emulated piece of Taito hardware, this at all. And unfortunately, I'm going to get nowhere now.
This is Nancy. You've almost reached the fleet vehicle. Over and out.
But I mean, the original Chase HQ was quite a serious tone game, and the tone of this one's just very comical, and it's always put me off. It doesn't feel like a proper Chase HQ game to me. Although this isn't the bad game stream, this is the badly emulated game stream. So that's not really relevant to the conversation here, but, you know, Chase HQ wouldn't have you running through a shopping mall with pizzas being thrown at you. It was a chase down your enemy and bash him off the road game. And that was what was great about it. It was, you know, a simple police chase game. Whereas this... what's it trying to be? Yeah.
Hurry up. You can still make it.
Yeah, this probably has okay handling if you're not trying to play it on a keyboard without configuring the controls. But yeah, Chase HQ is a classic. SCI, the sequel, is okay. This is just silly. Yeah, I think maybe did this come after Lucky and Wild? Because I think this is trying to be Lucky and Wild if it came after Lucky and Wild.
You're under arrest. You're charged with vandalism and robbery. Come away quietly.
I don't know if we'll even get to the part where
It's Nancy. I found the...
Roger.
Wait! Listen to the end.
come on. Off we go. But you can see on the widescreen view, the steering wheel is the right shape too. Again, the artwork in this is all over the place, which again is one of the things I don't like about it. I'm fairly sure that shadow is incorrectly emulated too, because it wasn't on the road, it was in the air. Both of them are 92. I wonder which came first then. Because they are a little close in the style they're going for. Here we go. I'm not even trying to play this correctly, as you've probably noticed.
I found the suspect's car. I'll go ahead and arrest him right now. Over and out.
I don't remember which level is the level with the train, unfortunately. If it's not the level after this, then I will just move on. Because I showed you the bug in the attract mode anyway, which is handy. But I can't work out what happens. I mean, the speed up hack in the driver is questionable. It seems to be based on the wrong address. But I took that out entirely and it didn't fix the game. Oh dear. Could it be a 68020 bug? It seems fairly unlikely, but can't rule it out. I don't think it's a different software revision because we've got several different sets and they all do the same. Again, you can find real hardware videos where it works fine. So definitely not meant to spawn the train that early on real hardware. Just bash them off the road already. And yeah, you can more or less credit feed this one, which again you couldn't do on Chase HQ really. And it's not exciting.
Very fast. Over and out.
Come on.
Hurry up. You can still make it.
It doesn't reduce the enemy damage to 0 like the original Chase HQ does there. Anyway. So I'm just trying to demonstrate one little bug in the actual game and spending far too long to get there. There's a house in New Orleans they call the Reno.
You're such a troublemaker. You're under arrest for terrorist bombing.
It's Nancy. They're now.
Come on, speed through it, speed through it, speed through it. No, this isn't the right stage, is it? No, anyway, you saw it in the track mode. The train spawns too early, and it's a bit of a problem. Right, let's go with one that bugs me personally. A game that I tried to emulate many years ago, and have featured on stream before, and that is Grand Striker. This has a zooming and rotation chip with a line mode that I have spent far too many hours trying to figure out and can't work out at all. So the chip is used to render these scenes here, where it's not too bad. The plane zooming seems okay, maybe a bit off center. Then it's wrong here on the right. You can already tell the zoom scale is wrong or something. Not quite right on the title screen. There are priority bugs, but that's the least of our concern. So, we get to the game. England, because why not? And then, it is not clear in any way how the line mode works for the pitch. It looks like it should be a simple case of it being the same as the regular mode, but per line. However, if you do that, you get this, and this is clearly a mess. Now you can still play the game as long as you work out where you are on the pitch and have a rough idea. But this is one of those that the day somebody actually fixes it, I will celebrate, because I've spent so long trying to fix this myself with no results at all. But it's made me absolutely hate the game. For a little bit. We've got about 20 minutes of the stream remaining, by the way. Just letting you know. This is worse, this one or the TGP4. I don't think there's anything wrong with the TGP4. There's probably nothing wrong with this. It just isn't logical in the way I'd expect it to be logical. Maybe it's closer to some other rotation hardware I'm unaware of. not the only rotation hardware tool with computers over the years. In fact, why don't I look at another game with rotation hardware after this, or another 2 games? I don't think either's especially bad for getting picture. I wouldn't say either was bad hardware. I mean, the TGP did some fantastic things for Model 2C. This produced a really good, football field when it worked on machine hardware. They are loud, aren't they? It's been a while since you've heard that type of noise in a football match.
Time up.
There we go. See, you can play the game. We've got German.
Kick off!
Not the best choice of kits here. Why do so many football games do that? Just give you kits that Now the sequel to this works fine. The sequel uses Konami video chips for the pitch. And they're much better documented. And understood. Yes, this game does have a link-up mode, which I guess would give each player a different perspective, which again is quite a neat little feature. I don't think there are many linked football games. Konami's Soccer Superstars doesn't count because that's not technically linked. Alright Stephen, take care, I'll see you another time. I mean, I used to be able to beat this game easily, so it's not the most tricky game. But yeah, you can't always tell where to pass. Terry has scored. Yeah, I don't actually mind it. I think it's quite a good game. I'd like to see the emulation fixed. It annoys me every time I play it. Because most of the time I'll play it and then I'll spend the next day looking at the emulation thinking, maybe I'll fix it this time, maybe I'll have to figure it out this time, and I never do. And then I resent playing it and getting an idea on my head that I can fix it.
Time up.
Yeah, the Konami ones... Oh yeah, the game volume, I forgot to turn it down after... Super Chase, where I had to turn it up. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry. Yeah, Bob. Thank you for tagging me in that, otherwise it would be very easy for me to not notice. I didn't notice the first time, did I? So, yeah, the game volume should now be a bit more reasonable. Spain are no match for me. Yeah, I should probably move on a bit because we've seen that and we've seen what it does. Vigo Soccer, the Tecmo one, suffers from the same issue because it's basically the same hardware. Okay. This one, Special Forces 2, is a Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong Jr. conversion. It's basically a Kung Fu Master-like game. But, as you can tell, it has no sound. Which is curious, because it's a Donkey Kong conversion. However, there's no sound ROM. We've seen pictures of the PCB. There appears to be no sound ROM. it is entirely unclear how this game is meant to generate sounds. We know it generates sounds because we've seen a video of the PCB running. There's one on YouTube which has sounds. However, it obviously doesn't use the sound CPU to generate the sounds. It must wire something up directly or have its own sound hardware, or I don't really know. All I know is it doesn't have sound. I mean, it's not a very good game. It's by the same company that did the driving force conversion. It had a sound on power up, which was just the sound, the regular sound hardware initializing with no sound command being sent, which was the Donkey Kong power up sound. But that is the only sound it makes because there's no sound CPU or no sound ROM for the CPU at least. I don't think it uploads code to RAM. I don't think there's a RAM replacement for the sound. So, yeah. It's one I wanted to include on my bad game stream because it's a bad game. Oh, hey, Dragon Mage 2000, thank you for subscribing. That wasn't a game sound, that was the alert sound from Berserk. Although I have got the humanoid, the beardy humanoid. I'm also a beardy humanoid. I also appear to not have buttoned up my shirt. It must be quite a warm day. But yeah, this is a terrible game. It really is. It's bad. It's like Kung Fu Master, but not fun. And the controls are horribly laggy, and that happens. Like once you fire, you can't duck. Yeah, the Berserk speech chip is properly emulated, and that's really good. That's one of my favourite arcade sounds, is Berserk. Yeah, that's exactly what you think of, isn't it? With the special forces, the professionals. You got the actual pros in here. You know, they go down to the building. You know, they don't bother to wear any kind of body armor. They just wear their shirt. They don't button it up. You know, they wear outdoor camo in the middle of a building. They fail to duck under anything. I mean, that could be my portrait up there. I think that might be my portrait. Oh. Yeah, I shouldn't take too long looking at my portrait. Probably a double agent. It's a very boring building too. I don't know why I'd want to go into this building. There doesn't seem to be anything in it apart from portraits. It must be a museum. Oh, I completed a stage. I was thinking of doing a Hyper 64 game today, but I'd probably not got time, cow. I think people are quite aware of the emulation issues. Oh, there's somebody up there now. I'm going to call you Machine Gun Whitehead Jesus. Yeah, this is a bad game. This was going to be on the bad game stream, but you know, because of the lack of sound, I've put it on this badly emulated game stream. Don't think we need to see much more. That's what the game is. Is anything from Alex64? Good suggestion. It wasn't going to be, but it can be. Let's have a look at Magical Tetris Challenge then, the Alex64 game. Now, this one has quite curious protection. I mean, it runs really slow. It's running at half speed because it's an N64 based hardware, and MAME and N64 is not a good match. But the curious thing about this is the protection, which is badly simulated. Let's turn the volume down a bit. So yeah, the performance is an issue. It's running at 60% speed. But all the Tetris pieces that drop down from above are handled by a protection chip, which seems to draw the graphics maybe over the N64 output. And the ROM it uses is encrypted and has not been decrypted. So, yeah, it seems quite complex. It seems almost like it might be on the level of sort of the CPS2 and Naomi encryptions, but just for the graphic ROM on this, which is ridiculous. And so we don't really know what to do about it. I've got it's 4 gigahertz i7 from about 7-8 years ago, System 11. So there's video glitches on the 2D there on the go. But yeah, the way the pieces are handled in MAME at the moment is actually copying from a different part of the ROM. So it's using the pieces that are in ROM for a different purpose to simulate it, but the actual protection data has not been decrypted. At least it looks encrypted, and I'm assuming that's what it is. So MAME kind of cheats to draw the pieces at the moment. And really it needs figuring out properly. And also it needs some optimizations, because this is running at 50% speed, which is not ideal. I think it was a cart, but I'm not sure. I mean, it's not. I don't own the hardware, so I don't know. It's been a long time since I studied it. But yeah, it's Tetris. But nice little cheat in MAME, really, to render the pieces at all. But it is a cheat. The real way it works is not understood. Hey Andrea, yes, you're a little bit late, but there's always the catch up if you want to see what I've been doing, because the stream won't be on for much longer. But welcome. I hope you're doing well, and I hope there's something interesting been keeping you busy. That means you're late. That's not a Tetris piece. But yeah, Alex 64 Magical Tetris Challenge. That does run faster than the other Alex 64 games, I have to say, because it's a 2D game. The 3D ones are a bit slower. But the protection on them is kind of interesting. I could have another look at another one, actually. Let's have a look at Tower and Shaft. Most annoying protection. Are you maybe talking about Primal Rage? Because that is on my potential list. Although, again, it's one where I'm not very good at the game, so I'm not very good at triggering the protection issues, even though there are many of them. Oh yeah, this one's running at 40% speed. And it's like one of those games you find in a plug and play, where you have to jump up the tower by holding the button. I'm not sure who thought this would be a good arcade, but this tends to be the kind of arcade game you actually see these days. You know, mobile ports and the like, so... System 10, well, nothing actually runs on System 10. The most you get is like the region screen on Mr. Driller 2, so there's nothing to cover, unfortunately. That's not badly emulated, that's just not emulated as far as I'm concerned. Now, again, the main issue with this one is actually it's just slow. It runs at 43% speed, so... Other than that, the emulation in this specific Alex 64 game holds up fairly well. So, it's not the most interesting to cover, but just for a reference of how a different Alex 64 game runs. There you go. So I don't want to focus too much on things that are just slow, because sometimes it's unavoidable. I like to look more at the actual glitches. But I'm running out of time, unfortunately. We are on 3 hours now. And there's lots I've not covered. So, this is one that's marked as working, but really isn't that working. And that is Kangaroo. This one has a protection device that controls the bonus items. And the protection tends to give you a lot more extra lives than you should have. So, you know, people playing this for score on MARP and the like have noticed that this game is far, far easier in MAME than on a PCB, because in MAME you get the chance of you getting a good bonus item is far, far higher than on the PCB. And so, you know, if the game is far easier, it's not fair for competitive gameplay. You can play it for far longer than you meant to play it, because you get extra lives and the like all the time, and higher scoring bonus items. So while it seems to play fine on the surface, I don't know if Time Crisis 2 is protections, fellow Jasper, or if it's just more advanced hardware. I think it's just more advanced hardware. Now, I'm not especially good at Kangaroo. I've never spent much time playing it, but I know it's a game a lot of people really enjoy. Which is why it's surprising, maybe, that it's still quite badly emulated. But this type of thing where a protection device is providing a random number for the game logic, unless you've got the protection code, you don't know what the algorithm for the random number is. And I think MAME is just using its built-in random number generator, which clearly is more genuinely random. It's a pseudo-random number generator, but the nature of the values generated are effectively random, whereas the random number generator in this game probably favours certain items. Yeah, those later Namco systems are incredibly complex and a bit difficult to show off. A bit difficult to figure out. Yeah, this is Sun Electronics. Atari licensed it, Bob. I mean, a lot of people know it's an Atari game because Atari did license it, but yeah, Sun made this. And it uses similar protection techniques to a lot of other Sun games, which are quite devious at times. But protecting something like a random number generator is actually an effective way to go. If you know, your bootlegs are going to think, oh, it's just a random number generator, you do it randomly, like MAME does, and then it doesn't work as it's meant to. I seem to recall the randomness is something to do with the bells and the item the bells gives you, actually. But I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on the game. I just know there are extensive, you know, conversations about how the game is broken and how it doesn't play as it should. But Plead started off as a hack conversion of Phoenix. I think somebody at Tekken basically said, yeah, they just hacked up Phoenix to make it. I think a lot of people played Pleads on bootleg boards. For the end, chance time gives you a chance to shoot the base ship. Ah, right. So you're meant to be shooting the UFO at that point. I know it goes out of sequence at the end, but I didn't manage to show the glitches at the time, or the infinite live glitch. But it does still happen because it happened to me in practice. But yeah, Kangaroo. Apparently the random number generator is wrong. We can have another look at one that's just slow and glitchy if we're looking at advanced systems. We can have a look at Stunt Typhoon Plus. Somebody did mention on stream before and asked me how Battle Gear runs. Battle Gear gets to a title screen and seems to hang. This goes a bit further. So let's pour a drink. We have not looked at Speed Racer yet, Andrea. It was on my list, but I've not got round to it, and we're already over 3 hours. Maybe we'll continue on for a little bit longer. I am pouring myself another little drink here. The question mark in the corner. Now, this one, I think, suffers from the IDE speed being too low, as well as other things, because it takes forever to load anything. So, Stunt Typhoon Plus. I'm assuming there's a non-plus version that's not dumped, but this is Stunt Typhoon Plus, which doesn't feel very responsive, but from what I recall, it can be made to go in game. There we go. Normal play or score attack. Normal play. No sound emulation. Now, so it takes forever to load anything after you select an option, which is what you're seeing now, where it looks like it's hung, but it's actually going to be doing something. There we go. Cinema select. That'll do. Now, this is still a very early preliminary driver, but it's interesting to see what's there. Now, this is a loading screen. This takes about 4 minutes to load. I don't think the original hardware is going to have taken 4 minutes to load, so this is where... you know, I'm fairly sure the IDE speeds are wrong, but we'll get through that. Come on. Now, I think this is an odd game where you race, but you also have to get stunt points or something like that. It's like recording a movie. But yeah, it's still loading. This is, you wouldn't have been sat in the arcade cabinet for this long to load, I'm sure. Pardon me. But yeah, this isn't well emulated, but don't expect it to be. It's now running at 60% speed. But it's impressive to see because it's you know, it's early emulation progress. The controls are very slidey though, unfortunately. So me trying to drive in a straight line is not going to happen here. But yeah. So this is the same hardware as Battle Gear and Battle Gear 2, but those don't seem to get in game, whereas this one does. So if you sort of want to see the state of this hardware emulation, which is still early, but at the same time impressive looking, this is one to look at. The road is being drawn, it's just very dark. The lighting is not quite right, obviously. But yeah, I don't want to really say this is badly emulated because it's still, you know, very early emulation, so it's impressive to see it at all. But obviously it's not well emulated, otherwise it would be marked as working and all would be good. But I guess it's one that a lot of people won't have fired up, won't have seen the state of, and in that sense it's probably interesting for people, you know, everybody watching the stream to have a look at and see what it does. And again, that's kind of part of the point of these streams. And there we go. I got $77,000 for doing that. And then it's probably going to load again for a while. Or maybe it just crashes at this point. I really don't know. We'll see. It is a bit slow. And it might have crashed. Or it might be loading. I don't know. It's early emulation. I just thought I'd show it because, again, I don't think many people have seen it running. Yeah, I'm going to say it's crashed. It might just be loading. Portraits, 1983, Olympia. I never could figure out the palette on this one. This is kind of a curious game because it's one where the game would take your photo and use it for the high score. And for a game from 83, that is kind of advanced. It's an Italian game. It's really rare these days. And yeah, the colours are all over the place. They're completely wrong. Your job is to take 7 pictures. So you are literally going around taking photos of things. Or, I don't know what, I appear to be shooting them with a water pistol at the moment. I think it's actually meant to be, I'm taking photos of them. Oh, I'll end up there. There we go, I took a photo of that. See, it's quite an odd concept for a game, but since the whole cabinet was themed around it having a camera on it, I guess it makes sense that it's a game where you take photos of things. And eventually the game takes a photo of you. But yeah, I spent quite a while trying to figure out the colours on this, and I don't know if the colour proms are bad or if it's just some odd encoding. Like, thinking about it now, maybe it's sort of more like NES encoding, sort of YUV or HSL type encoding, rather than RGB, because I could never figure it out. And I used to be pretty good at figuring out palette hardware. I mean, the greens are generally where you'd expect greens to be, but everything else is not. And it's got no sound emulation, and it's not especially playable. So yeah, take pictures of those. The controls are also very, very laggy. Did you get the elephant? I think I got the elephant. Everything wants to kill you. MAME wants to access your webcam. Indeed. There are a few games where that would come in handy. The Print Club stuff would also like to access your webcam. Oh, I got the elephant. I did get the elephant. I don't think the controls are meant to be this laggy, to be honest. It's barely playable. Yeah, reference screenshots, even that startup palette screen. The problem is it's a really rare game, and you won't find many original references for it. An Italian game from 83. I don't remember the controls being this laggy last time I played it. I wonder if this has regressed somewhat. It's a Z80 though, so it's fairly standard hardware. And there we go. Bad. Few animals. So I guess I didn't I didn't get enough variety, and I lost a life as a result of that. You've got to get a good variety of animals, not just all the same ones. Or I don't know. The sprites also seem to jump around a bit. But yeah, it's obviously an interesting concept, but you can't say it's well emulated at all. And yeah, the camera was taken away. Shall we keep going? Shall we keep going? We may as well keep going, haven't we, for a little bit. Right, I did say I was going to look at a plug and play, so let's look at a plug and play. This is one of 2 Carl Edwards plug and play games. This is the one that's on Elan hardware that was a control pad style device, not a steering wheel. by Excalibur Electronics. I can select practice mode. And yes, this is from sometime in the 2000s. I think about 2005, believe it or not. What are the controls? 2 buttons select. Shall start. Okay. So there is a problem with the transparency pen on the sprites, as you can see by the cars and the pointer. For some reason, your car close to the screen has really low resolution, and the sound emulation is terrible. But yeah, it's a NASCAR racing thing that has a Carl Edwards license, because apparently Carl Edwards wanted his name on terrible plug and play games. And this is a terrible plug and play game with awful collisions where really you do just drive around in circles. It's no Daytona, is it? No cow, it's no Daytona. Now, I imagine fixing the transparencies here is probably actually quite easy. There's probably just a flag that says use a different transparency pen on these sprites, or maybe it's a global thing. I don't know. I've just not got around to doing it, basically. As terrible a reason as that is, you know, I think I was trying to look for a flag, but it might just be a configuration difference in the hardware. Because there are a lot of these Elan platforms that seem similar, but clearly have slightly different functionality. Yeah, maybe it's a really low resolution scan of the Daytona car. I don't know. But really, you just got to manage your speed and drive around in circles and not crash into things, and pit in occasionally to, you know, restore your fuel. We're halfway there. It also, you know, puts Bon Jovi lyrics on the screen. This is definitely Final Lap Cow. Oh dear. You know, you play this for a while and you suddenly appreciate Final Lap as I've got one lap left. Driver is Carl. Now the other Carl Edwards racing game isn't dumped, but is very similar to the Ford Racing plug and play. But yeah, I think with a few fixes I could, you know, a little work, I could probably fix the graphics up on this. The sound emulation on these Elans is a bit tricky. Again, it's all undocumented. In fact, I should probably look at a Zavix game if we're talking undocumented sound as well. Again, you can see the emulation here is not especially good yet. Crazy Car's alter ego. Yeah, this is some crazy driving here. Oh, can't win them all, I guess. Yeah. Ryan beat me. And there's obviously a championship mode where you get to do that multiple times to get ranking points. If you really want to. Which I don't. What cartridge shall I put in my Popera? That would do. So, put this game. So yeah, the Zavix hardware has fantastic sound capabilities. My emulation of it is less than stellar. The volume's going to have to go up a little bit here. Don't know how much. I played this before on stream. It's one of the Pop era games. I'm terrible at them because they're music rhythm games. And I think it's in Japanese. No. 3-star. Maybe I can do it. Probably not. But But yeah, the main issue with this is the sound emulation is not really up to scratch, which is a shame because some of these have really good soundtracks. You know, really good renditions of songs. Instead of, you know, the envelopes, you get all this beepy sound. Bippy, 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 bippy. There. So you can see my great ability here. Let's do a 2-star one. I might actually manage to do it. But if you find original videos of these, which you might not be able to do for specific cartridges, they sound, there's so much more depth to the sound. Sustain effects, reverb effects, and they sound fantastic. Here they just kind of sound roughly like they're meant to. But again, it's undocumented. I don't really know how the sound should work. I've not managed to work it out. I'm not really a sound emulation expert.
Humanoid.
This is a 2-star song, so I can usually do 2-star songs. They're not too tricky. It's anything above that I usually struggle with because I'm not good at music games. Have I heard of an Undumped Ice game? I have not. Rhythm Horizon. I've not heard of that one. But yeah, there are various variations on this, even in terms of the plug and plays. I mean, this is the original Pop era with one of the TV Pop cartridges in it. There's, you know, there are other ones. There's Jumping Pop Era 2, which was sort of a dance mat version of it. Isaac Newton subscribed. Oh, I did hear the sound. Welcome and thank you for subscribing, Isaac Newton. Thank you for thank you for putting that there, Bob. It does help. It's nice if the actual subscriptions appeared in the chat messages, but apparently they don't. Oh, right, so this just has 4 pads, doesn't it? Yeah, because this is a dance mat one, which means you jump on things together. This is a slightly cuter version. Again, there are videos of this one, a lot of the songs, on YouTube. And again, you can see hear they sound a lot better if you watch those videos. And it'd be nice to see this improved, but at the moment I do have to consider the sound on Zavix to be badly emulated, and this is the really easy song, so let's just fail it. Speed up. Unfortunately, you can't quit the songs on this version because you only have the 4 pad inputs because it's a simplified version. Oh, I've started again. Never mind. Let's pick one of the harder songs in it. No, that's not. So, song 10. This might be a tricky one. And there's one that used a drum controller too. Taito D Pop Era. And many of them use the same cartridges for songs, although the cartridge does have to be for the, include support for the specific system. Taiko and this one support less cartridges than the others. Yes, a bit of classical music here, Bob. And again, the rendition, if you listen to the original hardware videos, is far superior. And yeah, one of the strong points about Zavix was the sound system, I think. It's one of the things that made it popular. Even that boxing game apparently has licensed tracks in it, because why not? But yeah, these are fun little games. If you like music games and you can stand the music emulation not being perfect, I definitely recommend them, especially if you try the different cartridges that work with each system, because you get a whole bunch of songs. And some mini games too in some of them. There we go. Alright, Andrea, take care. And yeah, it is getting late, so yeah, this is Jumping Pop Hero without a cartridge. I didn't put a cartridge in the Ogre, I just ran the base system on this one. Shall we have a look at one more Pop Hero game before closing the stream? I think there are other games I've not managed to cover, but might have to do it another time. So yeah, Taiko did Pop Hero. This one has 2 analog drums, which obviously is not ideal. In fact, I think you can only play this if you map it to sticks or something. Or maybe just hit it hard every time. Yeah, the hitting of the drums tends to drown out the sound. I think I failed. So yeah, if I try it on easy, maybe you'll hear the song and not just me hitting the drum. I think if you hit the drum too hard, it does make that noise, and the keyboard controls hit it as hard as possible. I don't think they're meant to sound like that now. Anyway, as I said, the sound emulation on Zavix is not perfect. The control emulation on this is probably not perfect either. I don't know. No, that's not even in that's not even set to analog, is it? No, I don't think I can configure this properly. So yeah. Yeah, the sound emulation is not perfect. Right. Okay. I think this one's still a bit of a mess. I've not tried it in a while. But, okay. No, it's still horizontal, isn't it? Let's have a look at... the trigger buttons just seem to be too strong all the time. It might just be the mapping in it. So this is a... Sorry, sound me back down again. This is a Jalico game, Wild Pilots. It flickers a lot less than it used to, but it still feels like there are some emulation issues, like there's hardly any sound in places. And it seems to glitch quite badly still. But I don't know, maybe it's just a really messy game. Now this seems again a bit like Looking Wild. You've got 2 players. I think one of them controls the plane more than the other one. But yeah, I don't know. This again, it feels like the sound's going missing. I don't know though. I've not played an original of this, so I can't tell you. It doesn't feel... It feels like there's something off. But I could be wrong about this one. Maybe this is just how this game is. I mean, Jaleco's quality at this time was not always great. The ground looks messy in places. I don't know. Doesn't feel like the ground is in sync with the buildings that are on the ground. And again, though, Jaleco did do Cisco Heat, and Cisco Heat is also a mess on real hardware. So, you tell me. I think it has potential to be fun, but again, it really wants 2 players. You have to wait for the second player to continue, even though you're not using the second player, which is odd. So this kind of makes me think it might just be a really rough around the edges game. And this is one of those cases where you're asking yourself, is it badly emulated, or is it just a messy game? You're adding this to Hidden Gems, this Mick. That's brave, but let's chase you down. Graham Remington. I say there's a gap there where the ground and sky didn't seem to quite meet. We seem to have buildings in the sky. I mean, they are skyscrapers, but are they meant to be in the sky? They're flickering a bit. What? Honestly, I don't know if this is emulated badly or just a messy game, as I said. And again, we seem to have lost any kind of music. You know, if I don't fire, there's absolutely no sound now apart from... So I think the music's failed. Dead silence is exactly what you want in an arcade game, isn't it? I don't know who the portraits are meant to be. They are all over the place too. So I'm guessing maybe it's missed a sound trigger to start the music again, because it seems to miss a lot of sounds. But there's other stages where the road ends up a complete mess. What's going on here? Am I under the ground? What? Eh? Huh? What? I'm confused. You see what I mean? It doesn't quite feel right. I don't think I'm meant to be under the tank. But there's a road down here. So why is there a road down here if these things are up here? Are these meant to be stretched? Is this meant to be down here? Is the road meant to be up there? You kind of see why this is on my list of badly emulated games. Because I'm sure it's not meant to look like this. But at the same time, I don't know what it is meant to look like. Because, you know, okay, maybe you can stretch that this way, down here. It touches the ground. Maybe. Also, where have I gone? I'm invisible. What? Killed Doc Brown before he escapes in the flux capacitor tank. Yeah, apparently I did. Helicopter. I don't know. Oh yeah, I did continue it, so I've got to wait for the second player. But yeah, maybe the vertical scale there should be different to the horizontal scale, and are we starting off in a mess here too? See, the sky from there was still there in this stage. Now we've got this here, which is this, and we've got a road going up. I don't think this is well emulated. There was Nick Cage in there, was there? I didn't recognise Nick Cage. Now we're on the ocean. Okay. I mean, the game is called Wild Pilots, and it's certainly wild. But I'm not sold on this being properly emulated. But again, it's probably one of those where I'll never, ever, ever see an original cabinet. I don't know. It is wild. There are no cows in it, though, as far as I know. I think our only cows tonight were in Overdrive, weren't they? Yeah, now there's an aircraft carrier that appears to have sunk already. What? Anyway, I think that's enough wild pilots. Okay. I'm going to have to end the stream soon. Let's have a look at a recently added game that I can't figure out the controls for, and that is Bandit. It has a whole bunch of dip switches that seem to be debug dip switches that affect how the game controls. You can do analog controls on and off. If you turn analog controls on, the car is easier to control, but you can't control the bonus screen. I mean, you can disable enemies. So this is probably a prototype. It's got very prototype-like features. So yeah. Cross each state line before cops have time to build the roadblock. So it very much wants to be Spy Hunter, but it doesn't control well. It's not in any way clear what you're meant to be doing half the time. But yeah, as I say, the thing is, you want to play with analog controls, so you want to turn analog controls on, but if you do that, then say you can't control some of the menus. So I don't know if this is badly emulated or just a test build of the game from, you know, prototype test build that isn't even meant to work. Choose one. So yeah, I've got you know, non-analog controls, so I can choose something. If I selected analog controls, that menu wouldn't have been usable. But with the digital controls, the game isn't really very playable. So it definitely feels like a half-finished game. But you know, we don't know what the intended configuration was. We don't know what the default dip switches are meant to be. We don't know if this is playing how it's meant to play at all, or if there are other, you know, other ones of those dip switches that are like the disable enemies one that have an actual impact on the gameplay. I feel this needs further studying and analysing of the code to really see what's what with it. I don't think it uses the MCU. I think the MCU was from a different game, which again kind of suggests prototype. But I think with the way the dip switches are set, certain gameplay elements don't always work. I mean, I didn't complete that in time. I don't know. Oh yeah, and you get to go in the electric chair if you know, the continue counter, which is a tiny continue counter in the corner. But there we go. Crime doesn't pay. So, can I select my name entry here? I don't know. If I could, I wasn't using the right controls. So again, maybe the name entry screen doesn't work if it's set to digital controls. It's a bit of a mess. It feels like it feels like one of those American developed games to me, but there are Japanese flyers for it. I really don't know. Yes, look at it. It's a Spy Hunter wannabe that is completely all over the place. that controls badly however you set it up. And I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't seem to enter my name there unless I was missing something. Maybe if I set the analog controls, I could enter my name. But there's something that this keep off left right control later changes the control in some other way. Tattoo Assassins is a far better game than this. Oh yeah. Now I have no accelerator. Okay, so you don't want to turn just that on because now you can't accelerate. So if I turn that and that on. No, apparently I still can't accelerate. See, now I can just go left. So the dip switches just break the controls. And they're red in real time too, you know. I turn that on now in the middle of a game and it still gets red and changes how the controls work. I can turn off enemies. I can turn all these on. And now you see I have a game with no enemies. But if you go too fast, you still spin. So I don't think if it was a released game, it would have a dip switch to turn off the enemies and mess around with the controls in ways that break the game. Maybe Bob Loblaw had some input on this game. I don't know. Probably not Bob Gale. I think Bob Gale had input on Wild Pilots instead, based on what the character. But here we go. See, no enemies. So there you go. Roads as they should be. I still managed to not drive properly. You just spin out. You go too fast. I don't know. The way it spins out feels odd. But yeah, somebody needs to work out, I think, what the intended dip switch settings for this are. Which ones have an effect, how the controls are meant to map, what on earth that one that just breaks the controls entirely is meant to do, because I'm sure it's not meant to break the controls entirely. But yeah, I don't think anybody's going to. So that is why this one feels to me badly emulated. I think it's still marked as not working, or maybe it's marked as working, I don't know. But it's difficult to try and play it, to be quite honest. Unless you could turn off traffic and then you go, oh look, we made it. But you get the idea. Pardon me. There are quite a few others I could have covered. I'll put on another one briefly. Another racing game, F1 Super Battle, a Jalico one. Another. This is one of the Mega System 32 games, but it has a bunch of extra hardware for road and a coprocessor for rendering the road. And without the coprocessor emulated, it looks like this. Because the coprocessor does all the road hack calculations, and we don't know how it works. So yeah, if you want a racing game from lying flat on the ground looking at the sky view, this is the one for you. The shift needs to be a different button, really. And yeah, the corners don't work, so apparently I'm not on the track, but I am on the track. Yeah, I'd quite like to see this one running properly, but the coprocessor stuff makes no sense. It's clearly doing some maths calculations. And it's unplayable. And with that, I think I will be ending the stream because we're well over 3 hours now. So I'm going to change it to the big view. But yeah, you've seen quite a few broken games, quite a few games that maybe could be improved, where, you know, a bit more research into them could help. I looked at some Naomi stuff where, you know, I'm still pretty sure if somebody rewrote the Power VR stuff and improved the recompiler a bit, you could have 100% speed on a current processor. I mean, they were quite playable with the hacks I put in as they were. But yeah, lots of broken things. Lots of things that just didn't work, weren't playable, or seemed off. There are plenty more on my list. Maybe some I should have covered. You know, I maybe should have looked at things like the Cave SH3 games where the slowdowns are completely inaccurate, or Dragon Gun where the video backgrounds are missing, or Gun Hard, the Data East game where the way the gun is hooked up crashes the game. Pinkiri 8 Ronjan hardware where I can't work out the sprite tile heights or anything like that. Street Fighter 2 Turbo Hyperfighting where it runs too fast. There's even a load of bugs for Miss Pac-Man on MAME tester still, apparently, due to the open bus reads and tunnels, which I didn't really research properly. Spook Up Soccer that we looked at on another stream. Fighting Basketball that's flickery. Taito F3 games like Elevator Action 2 where they were missing visual effects. Regressions in things like Sega's Title Fight. There are plenty more, and I would like to try and actually crash things like the End properly and Panic Road properly, but I didn't manage to on stream, which is a shame because now it looks like they're working games when I'm still pretty sure they're not. We didn't have time for Final Lap or Speed Racer, Metal Hawk. There are lots that we didn't cover, unfortunately, but you saw plenty of them that I did cover. I was going to do like a telestory one. I was going to read Cinderella to you, but again, no time. So thank you to everybody for being in the chat, and thank you to Santeri for the donation earlier, the €50 donation, which was very generous, as often is the case with the donations on the channel, and always appreciated, always help, you know, help support the channel, helps buy drinks, helps buy random plug and play games and cartridges and the like. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there to look forward to when it gets fixed. I mean, you know, Kale sent me that build with overdrive fixed from the Konami branch. Well, not fixed, but improved. And again, it gives you an idea of things that don't work yet in MAME that might one day work. Primal Rage is another. I wanted to look at Bishibashi with the bad ROM dump. Not something somebody can fix without a board, but it needs fixing. Cosmo SWAT, the Namco thing again, bad ROM dump. Decathlete, terrible performance. There's loads that I didn't manage to cover, but I might do another stream, not as part of the June streams, but another time I might look at more broken games. I don't know when, but yeah, I will see you all on the next stream, where I think it'll be the bootleg game stream, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you to everybody, and I will see you next time.